Your fame is well-deserved, candidate. Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us all your real address? You do have a home.
I live in the Palisades.
How dare you show your back to me? Slave! You will remove your helmet and tell me your address.
My name is Spencer William Pratt, pioneer of reality television, Trojan of Southern California, born and bred true son of Los Angeles. Father to 2 homeless sons, husband to a homeless wife, and I will have my vengeance in this election or the next.
Latinos for Pratt. Latinos por Pratt. Man, that's like the one primary. Like I want to see that election go on and on and on and on. Every day there's just more yummy goodness coming from Spencer Pratt. I guess one day all good things must come to an end. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. Tonight, Donald Trump has out-Trumped himself. This man, I don't know if people appreciate what he did here. He bent over backwards to find a way, essentially, to get $1.776 billion set up as a fund for those who are victims of DOJ weaponization. $1.776 billion. Oh my God. We got to talk about what he did, how he did it, how the left is reacting. Also, you might remember Officer Fanone, Capitol Police Officer Fanone. I believe his first name is Michael. He's the butch dude who was one of the stars of the J6 Select Committee hearing, coming out there talking about just how turbulent his whole life was. Yeah, he's been exposed now that this guy completely made up his story. It's borrowed from someone else. If my story isn't good enough, let me tell you someone else's story and pretend that's what happened to me. That's right. Exposed. Finally tonight, we are at Massie primary eve, and the Massie heads have gone woo. Wow. I did reach out to a couple of your favorites, a couple of people who at least at one point in time, used to like, if you don't still like them. I did reach out to Robert Barnes and to Viva Fry. I invited them to join me tonight. I did not hear back from Robert Barnes yet. I assume, look, I only reached out to him today. It's very possible he was really busy. I'm certainly not trying to cast aspersions. Viva got back to me, and he said that, and I only reached out to Viva like 2 hours ago, so I wasn't expecting him to make it in. But he said that maybe we'll do something tomorrow. He said he's very tired and he's going to be crashing soon, and that by the time I'm starting, he's going to be right now. He said, by the time you start, I'll be like asleep for like 45 minutes already. So certainly don't expect him to drop everything and pop on in here. But maybe we'll be able to work him on in here tomorrow. I'm looking to have a healthy and productive dialogue, because I feel as if a lot of folks on one side of the coin are not addressing the pros, Thomas Massie, and folks on the other side are thoroughly ignoring all the cons of Thomas Massie and very, very much fixated on the on exclusively the cons of President Trump, who's, to my mind, a phenomenal president. Imperfect, definitely. Imperfect, definitely, but certainly an exceptional president who we will duly miss when his term comes to an end. When we're looking at January 20th, 2029, that'll be a sad day, and I don't care who fills in his shoes. That's going to be a very sad day. It will be very, very sad. But this guy, Spencer Pratt, who I shared with you at his opening, he's not just like, going base memes. This is like, arguably, this is a powerful ad here. This is an ad that's not targeting you or me. This is an ad I wanted to share with you, which shows you he's got an ad campaign here. People who actually know how to I thought this was a really, really impressive ad here. This, in certain ways, might be the best ad I've seen from him.
All right, class, great job today. Hey, I have to tell you something. Promise you won't get mad? I'm voting for Spencer Pratt. Get mad? I'm voting for Spencer Pratt too. Did someone mention Spencer Pratt? No? No. Oh. Because I'm actually voting for him. Oh, so are we. I just don't know if we can say that too loud over here. Say what? Spencer Pratt? He's got my vote. Wait, is everyone here voting for Spencer Pratt?
You're not alone. I like it. Try to make a dent in the demographic that he's expecting not to do, get really good hay out of. Let's see if we can make a little dent there. A little bit of a dent. That's how you do it. And yes, he did lean in on the white, Asian, black. You noticed that too. Yeah, that's right. White, Latino, or Italian. I don't know what that, something closer to the Mediterranean in origin. Definitely. Black, Asian. Smart. Why not? I don't know where the Asian chick was, but she was here at some point. There she is. There's a little Asian chick. Yeah. I like it. I like smart campaigning. I like smart campaign work. And that is, by the way, it's just totally AI. Yeah, those are not real people. You think he's going to find 5 actresses who are willing to make a commercial for him? Besides, his budget probably can't afford that. Let's be real there. All right. Let's talk about what Trump did, because I think that what he did with respect to this settlement, everything about this is just it's a fascinating thing. We'll start here with Julie Kelly, just because I like Julie Kelly. I think she does a good job. Let me just knock this off. Cynthia Richards, welcome to the following. Please bear in mind that the following is not an occult type of cult. As a white, disclosing voting preference is weird. It is weird. But I guess maybe people talk about stuff like that. Maybe. I don't know. So Julie Kelly dropped the news where she said, it's official. Attorney General District Attorney Todd Blanche just announced the anti-weaponization fund in the amount of $1,776,000,000 in exchange for dropping the president's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS. Now, I didn't really go into what his whole lawsuit was. He was suing the IRS for the wrongful release of his tax returns, which happened during his first administration. You might remember Rachel Maddow all getting excited. Oh, yeah, we got the returns. We got them. We got the returns. And a big fat nothing. That's what she ended up getting. She looked like Geraldo Rivera there breaking into King Tut's tomb and just be like, oh, there's nothing. We really can't figure out anything from this. We got the returns. Always vet. If you're going to be hyping something, just vet it. Just vet it. And if you want to keep your reaction neutral, have a staffer look at it and say, is there stuff in there I'm going to be excited about, or am I going to be disappointed? No reason not to. But yes, justice and relief is coming. The settlement agreement in Trump versus IRS. Now, I have it here. Let me just make sure. I'm going to bring it up a little bit larger for you without having to save that, which I think is a little bit easier. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Damn it. That's not it. I kind of opened that up. I just didn't want to. It's so long. All right. I guess we're it's here. Let's just go with it. All right. This is what it says. In case you're wondering, what did he do? What did he do? There it is. This is what the settlement agreement spelled out according to DOJ, Office of the Attorney General. I know it's blurry, and I apologize for that, but we got what we got. The settlement agreement in Trump versus IRS has created the anti-weaponization fund, which hereinafter referred to as the fund. The settlement agreement directed the Attorney General to issue an order establishing funding and any other relevant requirements for the fund. So we're going to have to cross some T's and dot some I's, but we're not going to cover that in this settlement agreement. Capitalized terms in this document shall have the same meaning as the settlement agreement, which I'm sure that's a much lengthier thing. Within 60 days of the effective date, the United States shall provide to the U.S. Department of Treasury with all necessary forms and documentation to direct a payment of $1,776 million to an account for the sole use of the anti-weaponization fund. Now, understand this. Trump was suing the IRS for a wrong that he personally sustained, wherein the IRS unlawfully released his private tax returns. Who's the victim here? Donald Trump. Who's the potential awardee in the event of a successful suit? Donald Trump, personally and individually. Which is why when I saw this suit, I was like, ew, this is going to be an ugly look. This is going to be an ugly look. This is not going to look good. If all of a sudden he was suing them for $10 billion, I'm like, all of a sudden he walks out with $10 billion. Not going to look good. Not going to look good. But the way he handled this, chef's kiss. Genius. Genius. He didn't take a penny for himself. Nothing. No. Instead, it all goes into this designated account, the anti-weaponization fund. The corpus of the anti-weaponization fund's funding does not represent the value of any claim by plaintiffs, but rather is based on the projected valuation of future claimants' claims. Once the funds are deposited in the designated account, the U.S. has no liability whatsoever for the protection or safeguarding of those funds, regardless of bank failure, fraudulent transfers, or any other fraud or misuse of the funds. So if something happens to the bank account, the United States is done. They don't need to worry about that. They don't need to be like overseeing this. That's the point. The funds deposited into the designated account may be used to pay for per diems, which means per day, administrative services, or it could be like, per issue, I guess, colloquially. Administrative services, funds, facilities, staff travel, and other support services as may be necessary to count the mission of the anti-weaponization fund. The members of the anti-weaponization fund shall serve as volunteers and gratuitous service providers without any further compensation for their work on the fund. So anyone who's working there is not getting any money. They are allowed travel expenses, including per diem, in lieu of subsistence to the extent permitted by law. None of the funds, deposit, or claim shall be deemed to qualify for reimbursement by the DOJ to the Treasury or to the judgment fund. So it's gone. It's gone. Funding of the anti-weaponization fund fully accords with longstanding authorities. We're going to come back to this because this doesn't fully really well explain what exactly is happening here. So let's pull up this article from the New York Post, where they're talking about how Hunter Biden could be among those that cash in as Trump drops the IRS suit in exchange for $1.776 billion fund for victims of government weaponization. You know who else could cash in? Donald Trump could cash in for all of his legal fees that he sustained as a result of the government weaponization. So he could get that back. But technically, so could Hunter Biden, if he qualifies. President Trump has dismissed his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS in exchange for an apology. You will apologize to me. No, the apology is important. I need the apology. You have to apologize. The United States of America must apologize to me for what they did to me. The DOJ must apologize to me. In exchange for an apology and the establishment of a $1.776 billion fund to compensate victims of federal government weaponization. Do you have a special link here on this? This is where Trump claimed Biden administration weaponized DOJ to target Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, to put movement out of business. This was a week after he died. Anyone who believes they've been unfairly targeted by any administration could apply for compensation from the Justice Department's new anti-weaponization fund. Interesting. I've been targeted. I have been targeted. Interesting. Very interesting. A lot of suppression over here that we're dealing with. Just saying. I've been targeted. Including those charged in connection with the January 6, 2021. I think they were targeted a lot worse than I was. I'm not going to equate the wrong I suffered with what they're wrong. Capitol riot and even disgraced former son Hunter Biden, a senior administration official, told the Post. The point of this isn't to make every January 6er a millionaire, the official said. The point is to compensate and to give entitled people back some of their dignity and some of what they lost, including money, whether it's for legal fees or other costs associated with what they went through. Interesting. Trump, his sons, Don Jr., Eric, and Trump Organization, all of the plaintiffs in the IRS suit, are not entitled to any compensation from the fund, but will receive a formal apology. So he cannot get his money back for this. It specifically carves him out. Like I said, this is his gift. It's his gift to people who have been wronged. So he's like, I'm not dipping into it. And my son, Don, not dipping into it. Eric, not dipping into it. Trump Organization, not dipping into it. This is not about my own personal compensation. This is about making sure, let's face it, front and center, the J6 defendants who were wrongly victims of DOJ weaponization are going to get some relief for that. As well they should. As well they should. Frankly, we should make them all millionaires. Make every one of them a millionaire. Quote, President Trump is entering this summit squarely for the benefit of the American people, and he will continue his fight to hold those who wrong Americans accountable, says spokesperson for President Trump's legal team. So he cannot get the money. If you're wondering about, like, is this unprecedented, whatever that happened before, the answer to that is really yes and no. The Trump administration is in this final part of this agreement going to claim that this is not unprecedented. We've seen something similar to this before, and that's true. Not on this scale. And also, we need to sort of take a little bit of a moment to assess his claims. A little bit of a moment to assess his claims in order to be, like, fair in assessing this. I love that he did this. Don't get me wrong. I love that he did this. And the reaction from the left is a reminder as to how much you should love this, because they are outraged. They are friggin' out. They are not happy. Okay, so funding of the what they say here, funding the Anti-Weaponization Fund fully accords with longstanding authorities. The Automatic Payment of Judgments Act, known as Judgment Fund, established a permanent appropriation for the payment of settlements against the United States. So we have this thing called slush funds, which are designed to handle claims against the United States. The government may pay a settlement out of the judgment fund if the payment is not otherwise provided for, the Secretary of the Treasury has certified the payment, and the judgment is payable under one of several specified statutory provisions. Congress has provided for the payment of final judgments rendered against the United States, including compromise settlements and imminent claims. So we're working in consistency, in harmony with 28 U.S.C. 2414, which allows us to create slush funds. So that's what we're doing here. Now, one of the things that Trump has been very good about during this particular term is recognizing, okay, a lawsuit is coming, and I want my attorneys to be well armed with law that supports this position that we're taking now. So whenever it is that Trump has engaged in anything, whether you're talking about the National Guard or firing people or abolishing DEI, he's very attuned. Let's face it. He has a legal team working for him, which is very attuned as to what are the strongest legal grounds we can present and make part of his overarching statement for the purpose of establishing before the eyes of the court that this is legitimate and legal and constitutional. So that's one of the things that his team has been really good at. There's a reason, that is the primary reason that Trump and his legal team have had such phenomenal success, not so much at the district court level, but at the appellate court level and also at the Supreme Court level. When it's being reviewed, they're like, well, look at what it says here. This is totally fine. This is totally fine. Like 98 times out of 100. You don't fall into that by accident. That is a shrewd legal team. It is nice to see how well versed in the law they are, because they are very well prepped for what's coming down the pike. He has a much, much better record on appeal than the Biden administration ever had, than the Obama administration ever had. Much better record, much stronger record. So for all the people who think that Trump's an idiot and surrounded by idiots and no one knows what they're talking about, you're actually kind of just completely fooling everyone, and first and foremost yourself, by ignoring the levels of success he's had at the appellate court level. So, and then I like how they bring this up also. Previous cases have been settled on similar terms. We're going to talk about this case here. For example, in the Keeps Eagle litigation, the plaintiffs alleged improper behavior by the Department of Agriculture over a period of years. The Obama administration settled the case by establishing an administrative claims process funded by $680 million paid from the judgment fund, which was deposited into a bank account to fund the claims received. So we basically set up a slush fund so anyone who comes along is similarly situated has a right to get recompense from this slush fund. Now, what was Keeps Eagle versus Vilsack? So that case was a litigation that actually started all the way back in 2000, where a bunch of Native American tribes sued the Department of Agriculture and said that some of your programs that you have there seem to be only for non-Native American farmers and not open and available to us. This litigation that was started when Clinton was in office lasted all the way through the two terms of the W administration, and even made it a couple of years into the Obama administration. It was in 2010 that litigation was settled by President Obama. He's like, hey, my Native American friends, let me give you $680 million. If you're wondering whether this was a gross abuse of how much money to be throwing at this problem, understand factually what happened to this $680 million. This was such a disturbingly obscene amount, given the nature of the claims that were brought, that all the claimants got paid every dime that they wanted, and they still had like $300 million left over and didn't know what to do with it. So, that's how much money Obama threw at these people. He basically threw at them almost double what they were demanding and could have possibly needed. $680 million. Are you going to tell me that that was a genuine arm's length transaction? Clearly not. It doesn't make sense to believe it for a second. Arm's length transaction, when you talk about a fair settlement that is really fair, both sides walk away disappointed. Both sides feel like they took a punch in the gut. That's when you know you got close to the right number as to what's fair. This is what they teach you in law school. If you want to know you got a good number, it should feel like you got a punch in the gut, and they should be feeling like they got a punch in the gut. When one side is like, oh my God, there's so many gobs of money, maybe we should double pay the people who were claimants. Why? I don't know. But maybe we should double pay them because we don't know what to do with this $300 million, this extra $300 million. That means that the Native Americans were thrilled to tickle pink, and Obama basically raided the American coffers. That's what happened. So it's very disingenuous when you hear people whining and complaining about what Trump did over here. They're outraged because they're like, oh my God, instead of giving this money to the indigenous peoples of the North Americas, instead we're giving it to the insurrectionists. The insurrectionists are getting paid now. Which, of course, is what makes it delicious, obviously. Part of what makes it delicious. Jessica Tarloff does a pretty good job summarizing here how Democrats are feeling. The corruption in broad daylight is astounding. He's not only going to pardon J6ers, he's going to pay them with our money too, and use American independence as the branding. The American independence obviously being reference to the fact that the settlement figure was 1776 with a little decimal point between the 1 and the 7. But we're counting off I guess you can refer to it as $1776 million, right? That's $1776 million is basically what we're talking about. There's roughly 1,600 people who were charged, I think. So you can give everyone who was charged by the DOJ $1 million. Still have 160 million left over. So they're not happy. Flash, Scott McFarlane. Justice Department confirms it's establishing $1776 billion fund for victims of lawfare and weaponizations to be heard and seek redress. Fund will have 5 members and issue formal apologies and monetary relief owed to claimants. I think I'm just going to seek the apology. Just the apology. That'd be good. Jem Psaki got me silenced numerous occasions, and it felt personal. It felt personal. Let me catch up before I continue here. JH! Joe. I can see Viva bowing out. He does need his beauty sleep. Again, I don't want to. The only reason I mentioned it was not to try and throw either of them under a bus. It was because I made reference to it the other night that I would try to get them, and I didn't want you to think I'd forgotten about it. I hadn't. I made reference specifically to try and get Barnes on here. So And I know his schedule is hella way more busy than mine. So I wasn't surprised not to hear back. And when I saw I wasn't hearing back, I wanted you to know that I went a step further and tried getting Viva on here. So, and perhaps with Viva, it'll be more of a, I feel as if when I'm talking about Barnes, I'm anticipating it's more likely to get contentious because I feel as if his style is more aggressive and likely to try bullying me. Viva, I think, is less likely to try doing that. But I have some serious questions for them about their positions on Massie. Serious questions. And there's serious questions about their positions on Trump and about what they see for the future of America. And when we talk about the future of America, it's important because, like, you know, I was hearing before how the plan was to get J.D. Vance. They don't even like J.D. Vance anymore. So what are you foreseeing here? Like, what are you foreseeing? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what the plan is. I certainly don't like Rubio. So what are you seeing for 2028? What would you want? If you could get what you wanted, what would you want? I mean, it's just Dan Bilzerian. And I'm curious how Viva feels about some of these people who express attitudes that seem to have very serious issues with folks who share our DNA. Like, how do you feel about that? With the fact that there's never any distance between them. You know, from the ones who are not, you know, vocally attacking the Jews. Like, what do you feel about the fact that, you know, they seem to be popping up all over your movement, and there's never any effort to distance from any of the very, very significant microphones which are making statements like that? I've yet to hear anyone, Massie or anyone, basically say, oh, that guy's not part of real, they call themselves Real America First, and I don't hear any of them basically say, that's not real America First. And I'm surprised by that for a number of reasons. But as long as there doesn't become a Republican USA, yes, that's true. That would be terrible. Tell the left anti-weaponization is Second Amendment reform. I like it. I like it. Hans one says, Viva's solo parenting this week, so I bet he's real tired. He actually made reference to that. He made reference to that in his note to me. What he said was something like, he said, I'm just solo parenting all week and very tired. We can talk tomorrow. I don't know when he said we can talk tomorrow if he meant like individually one-on-one to me or if he meant on the air. I was talking about on the air when I invited him on. But I just, you know, I invited him for a discussion at 10:30. And I don't know if he realized that I meant on air. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Certainly not looking to sandbag him. I like Viva a lot. He's a good person. And smart. Just disagree with him on this issue. Yeah, so I got more from you because the left is freaking out. They're very, very much freaking out, and I wanted to share it with you. Chris Murphy, Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, very not happy. Very not happy. This is outright theft. Trump is stealing $1.7 billion of your money, set up a totally unprecedented, first in American history political slush fund that he can use to dole out cash to win loyalty and favors for him and his family. He's not taking the money for himself. Why would he need favors? It's not like he's running for re-election. I mean, it's got to be people who have been wronged by the government. So, not sure what you're talking about here. Dan Goldman, look how cool he thinks he is with his stupid sunglasses. We've never seen corruption like this.
On Wednesday. The mind-boggling corruption from Donald Trump has
Mind-boggling.
really stooped to a new level. What we
Is it?
have today is that Donald Trump engineered and manufactured a completely bogus and illegal lawsuit that was about to be thrown out.
No, it's not an illegal lawsuit. That's stupid. But it was a flawed lawsuit, potentially.
On Wednesday, in order to create a slush fund for whoever he wants, because he has total control over the secret slush fund that can dole out $1.776 billion.
You mean like the slush fund that's protecting you in case you're ever accused of any sexual misdeeds? So that kind of slush fund, Dan Goldman, like the one Congress has? And I want to be clear, I'm not alleging that Dan Goldman has partaken of that particular slush fund, but it is at his disposal if in fact he needs it.
And of course, the symbolism of 1776 should not be lost on anyone.
No, it shouldn't be. It's based.
Because it is the exact opposite of what our Declaration of Independence said. This conduct is so unbelievably out of bounds.
Out of bounds! This is out of bounds! Foul! Foul! And one! This is so out of bounds!
Unconstitutional. That not only does Donald Trump need to be removed from office, but Todd Blanche, the assistant attorney, the acting attorney general, must be removed as well.
You got this.
Mind-boggling corruption.
You got this, Danny. You got this. And this is from the party which basically was able to stomach Joe Biden being in office by selling out his influence, foreign peddling it to the most corrupt businesses across the globe. But this is the corruption they can't stomach. The difference between Donald Trump and Biden is, if there is any corruption here, and I'm going to try and steel man why you could claim there's corruption here. The reason, the strong, if you want to try and steel man corruption, I'll give you both sides here of the coin as far as the legitimacy of the claims that Donald Trump filed. He had, the statute of limitations he had was 2 years. It's 2 years from when he learned of the fraud, or could reasonably have learned of the fraud. He filed this lawsuit on January 29, 2026. So you're talking less than 4 months ago. The allegation is that back in 2019, some 7 years ago, his tax returns were wrongfully leaked by the IRS. So you can say, well, why is this? So what does that mean? So it could be beyond the statute of limitations. More on that in a moment, because potentially it's not beyond the statute of limitations. It's a little bit of a factual question, and potentially a legal question as to whether or not this is beyond the statute of limitations. I'll get to that in a moment. But before we get to that, as to whether or not this is beyond the statute of limitations, you should be aware of this. If you file a lawsuit tomorrow against anybody for something that happened in 1978, long after the statute of limitations has passed, is that an illegal lawsuit, the way Dan Goldman is claiming? Answer, no, it's not an illegal lawsuit. It's perfectly legal. In fact, frankly, the President of the United States, under our current laws, is allowed to sue the United States of America. Sounds a little funny. Sounds like it's easily corruptible. Can't deny that. It does sound like something that, I don't know, we should be allowing this. So if Congress passed a law prohibiting that, I think I can understand and probably get behind Congress, basically saying, oh, hell no, we're not letting this happen anymore. I could get behind that. I think if there's an ongoing suit, that's a different thing. Now, you might say, what happens if someone files a suit, a president-elect ends up filing a suit before he gets started, before he goes into office? I can understand a point saying it doesn't make any sense to say the United States should be negotiating, that the owner of the company negotiates like suing his own company. It doesn't make any sense. So I can understand. I know that. I know why they're frustrated. I know why they're frustrated. I understand that. But is this really an empty suit? Is this something that is beyond the statute of limitations? Well, you need to understand this. So when I said you could sue anyone for things that happened back in 1978, and that was true. You can sue people for things that happened in 1878. Now, what about the statute of limitations? Statute of limitations is an affirmative defense. So if you sue someone for something that happened in 1878, they would provide an affirmative defense of beyond the statute of limitations and move to dismiss. And they would win, and the case would go away. That's the way it works. Statute of limitations is an affirmative defense. So basically, affirmative defense means you assert that someone has a claim, you assert a defense, and that would be an effective affirmative defense, and it would be dismissed. Now, if someone was abusing this excessively, in theory, the defendant could seek punishment, sanctions, punishment to the lawyer who's filing this for them, or the claimant who's filing in bad faith for abuse process. That could happen if it's particularly egregious, or if the litigant is particularly notorious in doing this. I had someone who was, well, I don't know. If we hit the goal, I'll tell you the story of LaFonso Washington, which is one of my war stories of an individual who ties into this topic that we're discussing here. Not really relevant and necessary, but it's a fun story. But I'll throw that in as a little spicer. A little spicer. Tonight's goal, by the way, is if we get 15 super chats in quantities of $10 or more. It does not need to be super chats. It can be Rumble rants. It can be Digger Dollars. It could be Shkulim. Whatever it is. In quantities of $10 or more. We have 15 of those, and I am going to do my third hour. I'm going to be creating some manifesto magic. It's gonna be magic. I'm feeling a certain flame burning inside of me that needs to be unleashed. So it will be manifesto magic if we hit our goal. So, seeing as how it's an affirmative defense, it has to be dismissed by the courts. If this case was being litigated in good faith by the DOJ, they would certainly raise that as an affirmative defense and move to dismiss. That's what would happen. So that would be Todd Blanche's duty on behalf of the United States to basically have his office say, what the hell? This is beyond the statute of limitations. Now, Trump did have ways of trying to circumvent the 7 years since this incident first happened by saying, I didn't learn about it. And this leak happened courtesy of an individual whose name is Charles Littlejohn. He was working for the IRS. And he can say, look, I didn't learn about this until 2 years ago. During the course of discovery, was it discovery? He didn't discover this leak until January 2024. When in January 2020, around Littlejohn's sentencing for what he had done, because Littlejohn had all sorts of issues, legal issues that arose as a result of this nefarious conduct. So he basically said, I didn't learn about this, that it was done by the IRS until January 2024. I should be able to get 2 years from then. Even then, January 29th of 2026 is really cutting it close. I think that's the exact, like the 2-year anniversary for when it happened. So, and is he going to get a grace period, a tolling of it for 5 years, all the way up to January 2024, and start counting the 2 years from then? Would a court actually agree with that? Could be, but doubtful. It's certainly a long way from a guarantee. So before the court had an opportunity to weigh in on this whole thing, Donald Trump ended up working a settlement with Todd Blanche for this $1.776 billion. So you can understand why the Democrats are like, this is messed the hell up. This is just friggin' wrong. I don't like this. I don't like this. They're not happy. They're very, very not happy. I think it's funny. I think it's funny. But a lot of them don't. Another person who doesn't find it funny at all is Hillary Clinton. Trump didn't just pardon his followers who stormed the U.S. Capitol. He's now set them up for payments through a slush fund he created to reward his allies out of your tax dollars. You could not make this up. God, Griffin, it's official. The Trump DOJ just confirmed the creation of a $1776 billion slush fund that can be used to pay Trump allies who claim they've been wrongfully targeted by the Biden administration's weaponization, including reportedly January 6th insurrectionists. There were no insurrectionists. None of them were charged with insurrection. So, no, there was no insurrectionists. But yeah, all these people out here, all these people, they might be in line for a payday. A whole bunch of them might be in line for a payday. I thought this was, they're so angry about this. I thought this was hilarious. Let me get you a few other, let me get you a few others, just because I think this story is hilarious. If he would have been keeping this money for himself, I would have been like, I'd probably been laughing, but I would have thought this is gross. But because he didn't do that, instead he gave it to Americans who suffered as a result of their weaponization. I think that this is hilarious. Here's we'll just do a quick scroll to see if I missed any of the really particularly funny ones, because I don't want to shortchange it. This is the announcement from the DOJ. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Today, Trump created an anti-weaponization fund to pay white supremacists. White supremacists! Skinheads? Skinheads? Is that what you're trying to say? Skinheads? Who attacked our democracy on January 6th. This corruption is a slap in the face to black people who've been fighting for reparations after centuries of enslavement, segregation, and ongoing discrimination by the government. What? You can't make this stuff up. Everything comes back to race, ultimately. Trump had been asked about this. They think it's funny that Jeannie Pure doesn't know about this. Why would she know about this?
As quickly as possible.
And then given the weaponization announcement today, I just want to see if you think at all that any taxpayer money.
She's like, no, she didn't hear about the weaponization fund.
The weaponization announcement from the anti-weaponization fund. Do you think that taxpayer money going to other people?
She's like, I don't know what he's talking about. She doesn't know. Why
I
would
don't
she
know
know?
anything about this.
It's the settlement money through the Trump IRS settlement that they.
Yeah, I'm not involved in that. You always ask these out of my lane questions. What?
She's funny. The portrayal of her is like looking like she's always drunk. It's pretty funny too, to be fair. This I don't care about. President's comments on weaponization fund after voluntarily dropping his legit case against the IRS and $230 million administrative claims against DOJ for Russiagate and Mar-a-Lago raid. He dropped it all. He had real legitimate claims for some of them. I didn't even realize he dropped the Mar-a-Lago raid thing also.
Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Why should taxpayers pay for the January 6th?
Well, it's been very well received, I have to tell you. I know very little about it. I wasn't involved in the whole creation of it. And and the negotiation. But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized. They've been, in some cases, imprisoned wrongly. They paid legal fees that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt.
By the way, I love this view of the press room. I love the fact that all these people who hate him are left stuck, that their job is to hang on his every word. I love that they're all standing around trying to get their own little tidbit of question in there. I love that everyone here despises him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You got like 25 people here. They despise him, and their job is to hang on his every word. What a miserable existence.
Their lives have been destroyed, and they turn out to be right. I mean, it was a terrible period of time in the history of our country, and they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done, but these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it, and they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
And I'll tell you, we're going to get into just how weaponized they were shortly. Let me see if they list me. Who could benefit? Are you going to list me? I don't know. I haven't seen this. Creation, spokesperson. Appoints the memo signed by the AG. Commission of 5 members appointed by the AG. Power to issue full apologies. Okay, good. I think I'd be satisfied with an apology. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I'm like 10,000th on the list, but somewhere. The department said the fund will stop processing claims on December 15, 2028, just over a month there, before the next president is inaugurated. Any money remaining will revert back. Who could the money go to? It's unclear specifically is eligible to access the funds. No partisan requirements to file a claim. That's important for making it legitimate slush fund. You know, Lindell is going to be dancing a little jig. January 6 rioters, including those convicted of the most violent behavior during the attack later pardoned Trump, could likely apply for money, and as could high-profile former Trump administration and campaign officials who were litigating against the Justice Department. You know, Jenna Ellis is going to be signing up for this. You know, she's going to be there. So you're not really telling me. Limited oversight of the fund. Yeah, right. Well, what else we got? You know who else would be eligible for this fund? Every person in this picture. Some of them are turncoats. Turned on him. Ashley Merchant. Adam Kinzinger. Let's hear some crying from Adam.
And my Republican friends especially.
You don't have Republican friends, doofus.
Look, I get it. Honestly, I understand you can support Donald Trump. You can support his policies. It's America.
You don't get it. You're an idiot.
But there's some things we have to agree on. And one of them, Donald Trump is taking $1,776,000,000. Get it? 1776.
That didn't get over his head. All right.
That he is now pulling that taxpayer money out, putting a board of 5 people that he gets to pick, and they will distribute that money to the insurrectionists that attempted to overthrow the government.
No, that's misinformation. Not just. No, first and foremost, there were no insurrectionists. Secondly, it's not just the people who were there in J6.
So each insurrectionist will get about $1 million.
Wrong.
Of taxpayer money.
They should, but you're wrong.
And what's even worse is they don't have to tell us who gets the money, how much, and they don't have to talk about what they use to stipulate who gets the money. Nope. Donald Trump is sending a message to his people that if you support me, I will give you a pardon, and in fact, you may even get a payout. Could you imagine if Barack Obama did this, guy?
He did do it, doofus. He did.
Almost $2 billion that he is stealing from the government and handing out to the people that tried to overthrow an election.
They didn't try to overthrow the election. They were demanding election integrity. You're an idiot. Look, what you should be saying to Donald Trump is, we came after you. We came after you hard, but you held. You held. Call to activism. They're not happy either. Oh my God. They're so angry. And they're not just angry, they're also filing suit. Yes, they're trying to stop it, obviously. 93 House Democrats have filed a motion to block Trump's self-dealing settlement in his sham, these are the House Judiciary Dems, sham $10 billion IRS lawsuit, which would create $1.7 billion slush fund for J6 rioters and political allies. Motion for leave to file brief as amici curiae by 93 members of the United States House of Representatives. So I'm curious, who's the judge on this? Grok, who's the judge on this case?
I'm not tracking any specific case right now. Who or what case are you talking about? Give me more details and I'll help track down the judge.
Trump versus IRS.
The judge on the Trump versus IRS case was U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams in the Southern District of Florida. She was the one overseeing it until Trump voluntarily dropped the lawsuit just yesterday.
Who appointed Kathleen Williams?
President Barack Obama appointed her. He nominated her.
Uh-oh.
Everything okay? You sound a little worried there.
Yeah.
All right, just checking. What else is on your mind?
All right, so I guess he figured, let's go to the Southern District of Florida. Maybe we'll get a good judge. Didn't expect to get an Obama appointee. So she might allow the brief to come in. Most judges would just say, go away. I'm done with this case. I'm not thinking about this anymore. I'm done here. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. We're closed. Case is closed. Goodbye. That's it. That's what I think most judges would probably do. But an Obama appointee, it's bad luck getting that in the Southern District of Florida. That's bad luck. She might entertain it. Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama, Dollar Store Obama. The level of corruption and illegality from the Trump administration Republican Party shocks the conscience. Note to right-wing extremists and sycophants, the statute of limitations for felony crimes is 5 years. Over here, it's actually 2. Idiot. Doofus. Unless you're trying to threaten Trying to threaten us, saying that we're going to go to jail? Doofus. You talk about corruption. Now you say you're going to like basically go after people you don't like. You're going to go after sycophants, or what? You're basically is that what you're trying to threaten here? That you're going to come after them for felonies for the next 5 years? Schmuck. This is weaponization right there, right there. I feel like I'm being targeted right now. I think I'm entitled to money now. He's targeting me. You'd probably call me a sycophant. I think he's targeting me. Jerk. Joe, I was trying to get drunk on how much I love Viva. You didn't read the whole super chat. I missed some of that. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. I can see Viva bowing out. He doesn't need his beauty sleep. He has the looks of a Greek god and the shimmering skin of Canadian bacon. He's a man's man. Make tomorrow happen. I will try. I will try to make tomorrow happen. We'll see. We'll see. Definitely will try to make it happen. Sorry for missing that at the end of that earlier. Of course, they're accusing because that's what they do. It's always confession through projection. Murder has no statute of limitations, including plausible deniability, conspiracy theory, or national security notwithstanding. It does. Murder and you know, the Mann Act violations have no statute of limitations any longer. But you're not going to be suing someone civilly for that. It's doubtful. And I don't even know if civil suit has no limitation, statute of limitations. Not sure. Never had to look into that. Captain Fivehead looks like him Owens when he was. You talking about Fanone? Is that what you're talking about? Nancy Pelosi's struggling in a straitjacket. She's not happy. She's not happy today. No, no, no. Fletcher, you see, this is a guy who understands the mostly not occult dues. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. This is a setup. He probably have a lot of documentation showing what happened on J6. He's getting them to react and will release the documents. Trust the plan. Trust the plan, Wesley? Is that what you're saying? Trust the plan? Hans One-Pack said, I call Biden 1776 Ultra MAGA Statement Fund. Biden red speech really hurt me. Can I put in a claim? You should. The IRS sent him a letter disclosing their faults. Well, when did they send that? That's the question. When did they send it? Oh. Could I recoup costs for the anti-gag efforts? Well, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't know. I hadn't thought of that one. That's a good question. I like your question. It's a good question. Hard costs I got there. Out-of-pocket attorney fees. It's a good question. Joey Joe, I don't understand what the problem is. We had to pay out millions of dollars to the BLM rioters who attacked Washington, D.C. I don't know. They're stupid. It's always good for me, not for thee. If we lived 200 years ago, Francis Scott Key would have written about seeing Trump out there still waving. And he's saying, because the rocket's red glare, like, gave proof through the night that Trump was still waving there. Oh, say. I'm home and available to talk about Massie if you can't get Barnes or Viva, who are much more intelligent and eloquent. I'll send you a link. You want a link? You want a link? Hit me up on X at the following pro. Hit me up on X. I'll send you a link. I'll bring you in here. Okay? They're not coming tonight. Barnes and Viva are not coming tonight. I'll send you a link. I don't want anyone to think I'm ducking the Massie supporters. So, yeah. I'm not up to Massie yet, but you have time. We're working our way there. I'm working my way there. I will give you an opportunity to come in here and sell me on Massie. Why people should be voting Massie. Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Who has served.
You know, the funniest thing is this. Well, I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. I'm not up to Massie quite yet. I need to find the Fanone thing. Let me see if I find it this way. It's probably faster if I do it this way. Let's see. Here it is. All right. Since we're still on J6, Adam Carolla asking, what was not a lie about January 6th? Michael Fanone, you might remember him as one of the key testifiers for the J6 Select Committee. He was a member of the Capitol Police on the day of January 6, 2021. His full body cam video has been released. When you put the body cam video next to his sworn testimony, you can see this man told many lies about what happened to him that day. If January 6th was as bad as Democrats have claimed, then why they need to lie about that day? Look at this. Look at this.
I heard chanting from some in the crowd, get his gun, and kill him with his own gun.
Don't hurt him! Don't hurt him! Don't hurt him! Oh, we're better than this! Hold him! Hold him! Hold him! I got you, man. I got you.
This is from his body cam. They're screaming, don't hurt him, don't hit him, don't hurt him, we're better than this. And he's hearing them scream, get his gun. His body cam footage is picking up, don't hurt him, don't hurt him. But he's screaming, he's saying that he heard, get his gun.
I was aware enough to recognize I was at risk of being stripped of and killed with my own firearm. I was electrocuted again and again and again.
Don't hurt him! Don't hurt him! You're safe. Don't hurt him! Don't say it! You're safe. Leave it, leave it, leave it. Leave it. You good? What's your name, man? I got you, man. All right? I got you, man.
Those few individuals protected me from a crowd and inched me toward the Capitol until my fellow officers could rescue me. I was carried back inside. What happened afterwards is much less vivid.
Now, maybe we missed some of it. Maybe there's stuff that, is not part of this body cam footage.
I had been beaten unconscious and remained so for more than 4 minutes.
Mike, it's Jimmy. I'm here. Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on, buddy. We're going duck hunting soon.
Fanone. You all right, brother?
Can you take that door back?
Nope. Yeah, we did. Yes, we did. We took the fuck.
So it's minute 46, not 4 minutes.
Go back. Go outside.
I know that Jimmy helped to evacuate me from the building and drove me to MedStar Washington Hospital Center, despite suffering significant injuries himself.
You don't look very injured. You don't look very injured.
Let me go find your helmet.
All right.
Mike, I'll meet you right back here.
Yep.
You don't look very injured.
What happened?
Now they're speeding forward to where he's talking to the medic about his injuries, because he's telling the J6 Select Committee about his injuries. That's not what he tells the medic about his injuries.
Dragged out into the crowd.
And what happened?
They fucking, you got beat? Whooped my fucking ass.
Con first. You get
Where's
gas
the-
at all, or?
Oh, yeah.
Where's the electric shocks?
But I'm used to CS gas. That's fine.
All right.
At the hospital, doctors told me that I had suffered a heart attack, and I was later diagnosed with a concussion, a traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress disorder.
All right, I'm gonna check for any fractures. I don't feel any fractures. Look at my finger here. Look at my nose here.
This is him being checked out by medics. Right after.
No obvious severe injuries. Can't find any fractures. Pupils are equal. Open your mouth. All right. Dizzy at all? I'm gonna stay here and rest until you're feeling better.
Thanks, buddy.
Need some water to wash out the CS?
No, it's fine now. My body camera captured the violence of the crowd directed toward me during those very frightening moments.
Yeah, well, we see your body cam now. It's not supporting what you're saying, dude.
It's an important part of the record for this committee's investigation and for the country's understanding of how I was assaulted and nearly killed as the mob attacked the Capitol that day.
Are you gonna go to the hospital or anything?
And I hope that everyone will be able to watch it. They stole one of my pistol mags, too.
Yeah, you mean they stole both of them?
They
stole mine too, dude. They stole my gun.
He's telling a joke there, saying, don't tell the police they stole one. Tell them they stole both of them. That way you get to keep your free pistol. You get to keep your an extra clip there. Oh. So they're joking around. Very rough day. Very rough day. Oh my gosh. You held. Such scum. Oh my God. So I just wanted to share that with you so you can appreciate that Michael Fanone is Pangule. Yeah. Just saying. I'm just saying. The record doesn't lie. The record does not lie. Good question deserves one of those shiny coins? Maybe. I don't know. All right, Ogden, sending me love. Aw, I got all warm and tingly inside. Thank you. Kimberly. There's a picture of Massie with a man in American Reich shirt. The man has a YouTube channel, and he's a full-blown Nazi. You're talking about Ryan Meta, or something like that. Right? I know who you're talking about. We're going to talk about him a little bit. We're going to talk about all of this. We're going to talk about that because it's primary eve, and I'm almost there. But first, I think I got to invite on in here John Mansell. I got to invite this guy on in here. So let me do that. Let me send him a link. I'm sending a link. He's my resident Massie supporter, and I want to hear his thoughts because I think he's a very smart guy. So let's hear his claims. Chat. Let's find the chat requests. What the? How's it doing that? I don't see it here. I don't see it. Where is... I'm going to search for John Manson. Let's see if I can do it this way. Is it 2 underscores? What the hell? Dude. I don't see it. I don't see it. You sent it to the following pro? Excuse me. You sent it to the following pro? All right. You know what? Heck it. I don't care. I'm gonna put it under your message. You left a message for me. I'm gonna put it under your message. On locals. Okay. There. It's in locals now. Anyone tries popping on in here, I'll just bounce on out of here. I know what you look like. I know what you look like, Ben Sass's cousin. Fanone was not a thespian, but he had his moment in the spotlight. He did have his moment in the spotlight. He did. Politics aside, did you hear about the 8, 20, 100-foot asteroids flying between the Earth and the Moon over the past couple of days? We only discovered Friday. I did not hear about this at all. I don't really pay much attention to what's going on in outer space. Like, seriously, like, at all. So it's the sort of thing, like, if there was a blip across my radar, I wouldn't even register my brain. So, no, I did not. If it did blip past me, I paid absolutely no heed to it. I sort of feel like that sort of stuff, that's so beyond my control that I can't even, like, sit here thinking about it. I can't even think about it. I refuse to think about it. I'm like, look, that's sort of like, you know, if God's going to send a bus that's going to hit you, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do with that. So, well, I'm waiting to see if he works his way on in here. I do want to talk to you all about Thomas Massie. Now, I know a lot of you are not big fans of Dan Bongino anymore, but I do think that he has seen sides of Massie that you and I would never have a chance to access. So I'll just give you one perspective here.
And folks, it's a difficult conversation for me because I really believed in this guy. I did. I supported him for a while, even when, you know, him and President Trump butted heads. Been good on some issues. But I'm going to tell you something. I have never been as disappointed in a human being in politics as I am in Tom Massie. I largely stayed out of that race and make too many comments on it because the people of Kentucky will choose who they want. If they want Tom Massie, I'm not a resident of that district. I live in Florida. You pick who you want. got his opponent coming on in just a little bit, about an hour. We'll ask some questions about some issues that matter to you, constitutional carry, Iran, NATO. However, when I got up there in that position, I could not believe what a fraud this guy was. I mean, like an epic level fraud. Whatever you think of this guy, I'm telling you, I have no dog in the fight. I supported him. He is an absolute fraud. Fraud. He decided to do some money bomb thing and just completely BSing people about my record there. Just lying to your face.
So, to be fair, it seems that Dan Bongino feels as if he was attacked by Massie, so he might feel some personal animus toward him. But still, we can. So even if you want to take it with a grain of salt, it's interesting. The nature of the claims that he's about to make against Massie are interesting.
I tried multiple times to get this guy to come over to give him a briefing on a case he kept bloviating about on Twitter, causing a serious problem, by the way. And I thought he believed in due process. He's supposedly a libertarian, wants to try a case on X. And he didn't do it. I was there from March until January of this year. You know how many times he came over to visit and ask about these cases despite multiple offers, cases he kept bloviating about? Well, we could have actually told him. 0. And there's nothing he's going to tell you. All of his BS responses, his fake community notes, it's all a distraction from the fact that he doesn't want to admit that he was offered a detailed briefing within certain parameters on these matters he's bloviating about
Epstein. He was offered a detailed briefing on Epstein, the thing that he keeps screaming about and screaming about. He was offered that and never took advantage of it. Why would you not take advantage of it?
X in order to attack President Trump and others and due process, could have cleared it up for him right away, and he just didn't want to do it because he preferred to be stupid.
He preferred to milk it. That's what he wanted to do. He liked the fact that this was basically a thorn that he could just keep gnawing at and gnawing at.
Nothing will change that. He'll try to distract you with his razzle-dazzle, his bot army, like we haven't been through this before. You think you're the first time we've entered into a primary and supported a candidate and had other people come in with the bots and the bullshit? What do you think? We're like newbies at this? I promise I'll far outlast you. I promise. I've heard it all before. The guy is a fraud. Anyone telling you otherwise, including him, is lying. He did not want to know. He preferred to be dumb so he could plead ignorance on X and attack President Trump.
Yeah, that's a pretty serious charge. Say what you want about what Bongino did when he was deputy director of the FBI, and I understand he lost a lot of our respect there. Mine too. But he's making a direct claim here that the one issue Massie could not stop about, he had every opportunity to learn everything he wanted, virtually everything he wanted about it, and couldn't be bothered to actually look at it. So is this someone who's actually trying to get to the bottom of things? Or is it someone who's purposefully trying to create a political issue for his own grandstanding and his own personal acclaim? He's not helpful to America. This is why Code Pink supports him. Code Pink, the pink hat abortion queens, that's why they support him. That's why Iran gives him an A+ rating. Because he's a professional thorn. And it sickens me. You want to know what really sickens me? I'll show you what sickens me. This is what sickens me. You think I want to stand up for this guy? You think I ever want to? You think I'm ever happy with the idea of this schmuck over here?
To that I say this race is a referendum for sure. It's a referendum to see if coastal elite liberal Democrats can buy a seat in Congress under the guise of a rhino Republican who has served.
Not a single person. You're the rhino. You're a freaking liar. No, I have a lot of issues with Massie. Anyone who describes as a rhino is just a freaking liar. Now, maybe you think that your constituents are too stupid to understand that you're trying to say bad Republican. Maybe that's what. Maybe you just have so little respect for the intellect of your own constituents that you're basically lying and using that term. Why the hell would you ever use the term rhino when you are the queen of rhinos? You're a liar. Everything about you screams rhino. It's the stupidest possible criticism of Massie to label him a rhino. The dude is not a rhino. There's a lot of things. He's a grifter. He's basically destructive to no one's benefit other than his own personal popularity. So I think he's selfish. But rhino? You're the rhino. You're literally the rhino. You're such a rhino. Everything about you, you just say whatever it is that you think is going to get you elected. It's supported by big money PACs. Everything about you is you got like this big massive horn sticking out of your nose. Ridiculous. Okay, so I have to stand here basically trying to advocate for this schmuck. Every time I listen to this guy, I'm like, I hate this guy.
For 14 years, and his nickname, Misrepresentative Massie, our term limits Tom, depending on what county you're here in my district of 21 counties. Laura, thanks for having me on, and hello to the viewers. Greetings from Kentucky.
Now, Massie is weighing in on Pete Hegseth campaigning for him. Check this out.
Well, first of all, it shows that I'm up in the polls. They wouldn't be sending the Secretary of War to my congressional district if I weren't. I think it also shows I'm tougher than Iran, and I don't even have a nuclear weapon.
You're tough. What is that? What the hell does that even mean? You're tougher than Iran. Iran gives him an A+ rating. New York Times is writing articles lauding him as like this amazing congressman. When the hell should anyone Republican be supporting someone who's being lauded by Code Pink, the New York Times, Ro Khanna, AOC? Ilhan Omar. This is who he's basically in bed with. He loves screaming about how he stands up against Trump, and then he goes out to his supporters and tells them how, oh yeah, Trump endorsed me before. I vote with him 91% of the time. Which is true if you count his first term. In the second term, he's voted with him 77% of the time. Which is a shockingly low number. Where this lying stinker basically comes out and says, oh yeah, no, I vote with the party all the time. 90%.
I mean, they are all in this race. It's basically a national race at this point, and that's because
it is a national race. I'll give him that. Gobs of money being thrown by AIPAC at Galway. We'll get to that. Gobs of money being thrown by the Muslim League and the Arab League and every freaking Arab out there throwing it at Massie. And sitting here whining about AIPAC when he's sitting here taking money. I don't understand the difference. I can't figure out for the life of me the difference between taking money from Middle East country A versus country B. But apparently he's very, very holy. That's the other thing. Some of these Massie supporters, they all have their purity tests. You ask any questions or levy any criticism at Massie, and they scream, "You're Israel first," which is the same thing like Obama supporters saying that you're against him because you're a racist. It's childish, stupid, and lazy. It's as lazy as Gallrein calling him a rhino.
Because, I'm up there, I'm getting things done.
You're not getting anything done. You get nothing done. Your whole claim to fame is that you stop things from getting done. You don't get anything done. What the hell do you get? What have you ever gotten done? Tell me what you got done. Your entire platform is you make sure nothing gets done. Which that's not the agenda of a politician. No matter who's in office, I get nothing done. It's retarded. How's that a politician? Aren't you supposed to be getting things done? Tell me what you get done. You're proud of the fact that you vote no to Biden all the time. Okay, here, God bless. You vote no to Trump all the time also. You just get nothing. You try to make sure nothing ever gets done. That's the accomplishment?
Listen to that, Ed.
He's got a problem for every solution. He continues to be the MVP of the squad. He won that in 2025, hands down. He's the front runner for 2026. It's a pretty low bar, as we say.
And he is very popular with the squad.
In Kentucky, when you get the endorsement of the New York Times, that left-wing liberal congressman from California, Ro Khanna, with Joey Behar and the ladies from The View.
Joey Behar, the ladies of The View, love Tom Massie. It's humiliating. How it is that's what people call real America first. But I don't want you to just hear from me. I want you to hear from a genuine Tom Massie supporter. And I'm going to be treating him with the utmost respect because I actually really like John. He disagrees with me strongly on this. So, with that, let me bring him on in here. My good friend John, how are you?
Oh, I am not hearing you. 1 second. Let me... Hang on.
Don't worry about
I've never
it.
done StreamYard before, so I don't know why it needs that. This is embarrassing.
Okay, so...
Hang on. I can't...
Go out and in.
Okay.
Out and in. If you knew, sometimes like when trying to get your hookup and your machinery to register what's coming in. So maybe that'll work.
And to put a bow on it, that Crockett lady from Texas. When you tell folks in
Crockett loves him also. It's like basically he's like surrounded by like a scorpion, a viper, and like a horde of bees.
Kentucky, he's been endorsed by those folks.
Vote for
They
me.
are dumbfounded because he's had the top cover of mainstream media for years. He's their darling. Laura, it wouldn't surprise you to know the New York Times came here a few weeks back. They didn't even talk to me. They interviewed him, wined and dined him, and did a lovely article on him because they hate us. One other thing I want to add, he has shipped in a bunch of out-of-state, no-name, so-called Republican rhino congressmen because not...
Yes, I can hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Now, before we get started, everyone, if you're unfamiliar, this is John Mansell. He's a big fan of the show. He's here all the time. We disagree, I think, fairly strongly on the issue of Tom Massie. I respect the fact that, a lot of people, when they think they disagree with the creator, they basically like, F him, I'm done with him. I respect the fact that he comes back here. And I also think that you got balls of steel because you know that like I'm a lawyer and this is what I do. And like, and this is not what you do. What do you do?
I'm a computer programmer.
Right. So you're basically feeling like you're coming in here, into a fight that's a fixed fight. And I'm not, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be trying to bulldoze you. I'm going to want to let you get your thoughts out and try and hear where you're coming from here. But you're a very big supporter of Massie. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me the 5 best things about Tom Massie.
Okay. So I would say that Thomas Massie is basically he is the version of America First that Trump ran on, right? So, so all of that energy that Trump built in his coalition, right? As far as like we're going to take everything away from this, the ruling class, the uniparty, all that sort of stuff. Thomas Massie was right on board with all that. And there were going to be things where he disagreed, right? Trump came and spoke at the Libertarian National Convention this last time. And yeah, like we all knew there were places we were going to disagree, but we can do better together. The same as like when RFK Jr. did the whole his acceptance speech for joining the thing, and it was the team of rivals, right? It was like, okay, we disagree, but here's what we can work well on. Right. And then in my opinion, or in the libertarian mindset, the things where they have butted heads the most is where Thomas Massie stayed firm on the stuff that Trump promised to do, right? So the place where they first like really had conflict was the Epstein files, right? So Massie was the one who authored the Epstein Transparency Act. And that's when Trump first really started coming after him.
Right.
And going after him.
I'm gonna let. I have a lot of thoughts about what you're saying.
Okay.
But I don't want to jump in and like divert you. I want you to get out. So.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah. And like I don't need to convince you or persuade you, but I do think it's good to like understand this is where we're coming from. This is why we still support him.
Right.
So he authored the Epstein Transparency Act. So he basically said, like, no, this is an America First thing, right? Getting these documents out is an America First thing. We are going to do this. Even if you've changed your mind or for whatever reason you don't want to do it, okay, we're just going to force you. Like Congress is just going to force you to do the thing that you promised to do at the beginning.
Right.
And so he followed through on it. And that made a lot of enemies. Right. And then, but then you can kind of, that's maybe like the first and most quintessential example. But then a lot of the other ones, right? Like Trump campaigned on starting no new wars. And like he did mention occasionally, like Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. But I did some analysis on like all of Trump's campaign speeches for this last time. And if you just look at like what he's discussing, it's like 1% he talks about Iran not having a nuclear weapon. And then there's about 25% he's talking about no new wars, right? His biggest things were bringing down cost of living, right? That like Democrats had just like made it unaffordable for everyone.
Right.
But then when he's in office, he turns around and he says that unaffordability is a hoax, right? And so, but Thomas Massie is trying to reduce spending. And like he opposed him on the, what was it? The big, beautiful bill, right?
Right.
So he said like, no, you ran on not increasing the spending. We're not going to let you just do this giant like uniparty bill anymore.
Right.
So no, I'm going to oppose that.
Right.
And then they did like, there was so much stuff thrown into that bill that then they can use bills like that to say like, oh, Thomas Massie supported, transgender surgery stuff or whatever. Like there's so much stuff in there.
They try to malign him by basically tying in the stuff that that the good parts they threw in there, and they basically ignore that the real reason he's fighting against it is because of principled conservatism and not supporting massive spending. So you think that's an unfair? But I don't think you've ever heard me malign him that way.
No.
I don't recall ever maligning him like that.
Correct. I don't think you have.
Over the last 2 weeks, there's been all these different types of scandals that Laura Loomer has been baking in, and a lot of the memers have been who are pro-Trump have been trying to attack him on. Like today, the whole thing with the pine cone and text messages that are very lurid. And I'm only mentioning them in passing, not to try and sensationalize them, but to point out that I don't sensationalize this stuff. I'm not trying to attack him on false grounds. I really have problems with him for legitimate reasons, and that have nothing to do with these little side deflections as bases to try and attack his character. I thought the whole conversation with Christina West, like I was very curious about that. But even that, I was somewhat defensive of him saying, hey, I don't really think there's anything that terrible here. I mean, doesn't look pretty, but it's not like anything really that's scandalous. It's not like he was married, and and I was like, so he's got his personal urges, and his question as to whether or not he abused his privilege, as West is claiming, and got him fired because of revenge, or whether there was some other issues going on there. So like, I was like, I don't think that this is that big a story. I think I admitted that it was purposefully timed to try and screw him up going into the primary.
Yeah, I thought you treated that one very fairly.
Thank you. I try to assess fairly. I'll tell you this much: his battling with Trump did not start in this administration. He voted against extending the wall in the first administration.
Yeah.
So it's
they
not like it
had a lot more in the first administration. Sorry.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like a lot of the stuff that he ran on this guy has been trying to stop him from the get-go. Now, the Epstein file, you've heard me talk about this countless times, that I think that the way that the Trump administration handled the Epstein file was a debacle. I think it was terrible. But I don't think it's, but at the same time, I've come to a place where I don't think it's the nature of the scandal, the same way I give, like I'm erring on the side of Massie, who I'm not a fan of. When I'm looking at his scandals, I'm sort of looking at this Epstein situation, and I think that guy was human scum, and he's rotting deep in hell, and his personal appetites were depraved, disgusting, and I think that they probably burn his Schwenzel to ashes and then reassemble it and burn it again, in for eternity, because he's that slimy. But as far as like the whole, the elites are all part of like some sort of like, QAnon type of fest of little kids being abused, I'm like, I don't know that that's there. And I think there's sort of an assumption that that's there, and that that's what Trump is like, protecting this class of pedophiles. And I don't know where we know this information from. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, what are we rooting that in, other than the fact that we know that he personally was like that? But why do we come to a conclusion that that is what was going on, rather than the other explanations that you've likely heard me give, as far as him being someone who was very beneficial to the CIA or the FBI or Mossad and MI6 and seemingly even the Russians, FSB, that he had connections there too, that he was someone who had international contacts in espionage throughout the globe. And that's why everyone liked having him around, because they looked at him as a useful tool, and they tried looking the other way, despite how, and wrong, they were wrong for that, but despite how heinous and disgusting his crimes were. And I think that explanation basically means that what you're seeing in these files is going to be very, very gross with respect to his personal taste. But I don't know that if there's anything so revealing that's a big, massive cover-up for like, this guy or that guy. I don't know. I mean, I think top of the list would be Bill Clinton, as far as who's being protected there, because he's the one who's bouncing around Thailand, which is notorious for having underage minors engaging in all sorts of disgusting acts. So, he would be top of the list there. We don't hear stories about girls, and there's so many girls that come forward. I don't remember hearing any of them give a name other than Prince Andrew and Virginia Guffrey. We don't hear any of them say, hey, I was 14, I was 15, and Jeffrey Epstein had me do this with that guy. We don't hear any stories like that. And we do hear stories of them saying, when I was 14, Jeffrey Epstein did this to me. When I was 16, Jeffrey Epstein did this to me. We don't hear any of them talk about other people in that particular way. And that's why I think that this fixation on Epstein, which I admit was a debacle, it's become this focal point where it's like, let's tune out the dozens of great, amazing things Trump has done and treat him like total hot garbage because of the way his administration bungled the Epstein thing. And I'm like, this is it's so looking at the glass not half empty. It's so unappreciative of just how amazing life is under the current administration compared to the previous administration or the Obama administration or even the Bush administration. And I feel as if it's so petty and wrong. I feel as if like I get like angry about it. And that's not to say that Trump is perfect, but I feel as if it's like there's so little appreciation for how he closed the border, for the DEI thing, for his capture of Maduro, which Massie somehow claims is a violation of War Powers Act. And I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not a violation. No Supreme Court would ever classify a 24-hour excursion as a violation of the War Powers Act, but he's going to try and stand on the Constitution and say the Constitution says that that's a congressional act, a national act of war. You can't do that. So he's not even telling the truth about Constitution, but as soon as he uses the word Constitution, you get millions of people there screaming, based, 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 even though he's lying to them. So I feel as if Massie, I know you look at Trump as if he's sort of almost stealing the MAGA movement and taking it away from America First principles. And I look at Massie as he's someone who's taking away constitutionalists from understanding the Constitution and perverting it to his own personal benefit. And that gets me very annoyed when I see that, when I see him doing stuff like that, particularly like the Maduro thing. We can talk about Iran, and we will. But do you understand where I'm coming from as far as how that just gets me like outraged?
Yeah. I think the Maduro thing, I'm certainly not a constitutional scholar. I will say I did not like our military going in and taking, even if it's a 24-hour thing, no one got hurt. The idea of us just militarily extracting a foreign leader of a sovereign country that we didn't declare war on. I think if someone did that to any one of our politicians, we would consider that an act of war, right? And so
yeah, we would.
And so I think it's fair to say that counts as an act of war if we do it to someone else, and it wasn't an immediate threat. So I lean on Massie's side, but I also will agree with what you have said over and over in that we don't know what the Constitution says until the judge rules on it, right? So
but
is
it's
that
not
constitutional or not?
Right. But what I'll point out is that everyone recognizes that he can that the commander in chief has the authority to use the troops as he sees fit for up to 60 days.
Isn't that only if there's like an immediate threat?
Right. So, but it's in his assessment as to whether or not it's an immediate threat, which is why that never gets challenged, because clearly if he's making the decision, he considers it an immediate threat.
Yeah. So that is up for debate. That's one that hasn't been settled. But
that's my point. Is I think under Supreme Court law it is settled. That's my point. I know you're not a lawyer, so I'm not going to hold you to account to that. But I think he is a lawyer, and that's what gets so frustrating is that I feel as if he misguides his followers into thinking like this is an actual questionable area that Trump was venturing into, when under the law it's not remotely questionable. That's my point. The fact that you're confused about this, I'm not faulting you. I'm not faulting you at all. I fault Thomas Massie for the fact that you're confused about this.
Well, wouldn't it be let me see if I understand correctly. If I understand correctly, it's not settled because it hasn't been adjudicated, right? But then
this so
I've
then, said many
he
times
at least has a credible argument that it's an act of war against a foreign country and it's not an immediate threat, and so that doesn't fall under the War Powers Resolution Act, right?
So I think you've heard me say many times, I think, that when I was and this is because he's such a great fan. He knows I've said this many times, that the way the law operates is we're sort of all guessing in the dark as to what the law is, and it only becomes the law once the court weighs in and says this is what the law is. This is true in many areas, but then there are other areas where you have established precedent that we can say, okay, based on the fact that we've had precedent in this scenario, that scenario, which are all similar scenarios, and this is a consistent rule which has been applied by the Supreme Court, that becomes established precedent, that becomes reliable predictor for what the future is and guides a president or even an individual on day-to-day activity as to what is considered lawful and what's not considered lawful. So that's why I'm saying that presidents are guided based on these previous precedents, which establish that you make your own decision, and if you're there for less than 60 days, you can do whatever the hell you freaking want to do. And that's why I'm saying that when he comes out and says, well, this is a question because we would call this an act of war. Yeah, we would. We also have never been taken over by a guy who, I guess technically under Biden, people would say that we were taken over by a false elector. But I mean, this is someone who is widely regarded as if he didn't actually win his elections. He had been deemed and declared by Trump. He expressed that this is an imminent threat when he was talking about the fentanyl crisis, and that he felt as if this was that we were under attack from that country. So that's why I think and you might disagree with him, and you might say Trump is wrong, and I might disagree with him. In fact, you might have 300 million Americans who all disagree with him. But that's precisely where the commander-in-chief gets to make that call. And once he does, it doesn't matter what the hell Congress thinks about it, or the House of Representatives or the Senate or his entire cabinet. It doesn't matter if he's in cockamamie land, and that's where he came to that conclusion. We elected him specifically to be the final arbiter of that situation. And that's why I'm saying this is not an area it's not an area at all that there's a question of law. And I feel as if Massie has tried to muddy this purposefully to make him come across as I'm the based constitutionalist. When he's not the based constitutionalist, he's just making crap up half the time. That's what I'm saying.
So, okay. I guess 2 points. One, there's probably missing like an argument about whether or not it is constitutional or not for him to do it is, I think, probably missing the big, I don't think most of the people who are supporting Massie are doing it based on his interpretation of constitutional law for this one specific instance, right? It's a let's
move past Maduro.
Let's move
past Maduro. I brought that up to just give you one example as to where I'm frustrated with Massie. There are multiple areas that I'm frustrated with Massie. I was giving you one example of that. And when it comes to tariffs, right? So he is technically correct when he explains that the Constitution says that tariffs are referenced as a duty in the Constitution, and duties under the Constitution are supposed to be levied by Congress. So he is technically accurate in that. Mm-hmm. Now, and I think you've probably heard me talk about this in the past. When it comes to tariffs per se, so tariffs have two different types of primary objectives. One is to raise revenue. During the early years of this country, we survived on tariffs. So instead of having an income tax, we had tariffs, and that's where we were basically making all our money. And then the other area is an area with respect to using it as a tool for negotiating with foreign nations. Now, we were in a completely different world in 1789 with respect to the tariffs and global trade and how global trade operated. Obviously, when you're dealing with everything is being sent by ship, as opposed to we didn't have planes, we didn't have the quick ships that we have now. I mean, it's a whole different world. What you were talking about, the relative lack of establishment of the Americas in general as being trading partners. The entire global trade was just completely unimaginable to the founders, and the nature as to how tariffs could be used for purposes of diplomacy, not just as far as revenue. I think if they had actually appreciated, I personally believe that if they had appreciated the level of impact, they would have ceded a lot more discretion to the president, because they do view him as the tip of the spear for America in dealing with international relations. And seeing as how tariffs can play such a fundamental role in that capacity, I do think they likely would have given him more power if they recognized how the world would evolve. But as a constitutionalist, I can definitely respect an argument saying, look, this is what it says. It says it's Congress's deal. That's fine. But at the same time, it's definitely well established that Congress can cede that power over. Mm-hmm. So as a constitutionalist, I would have loved for him to say, no, Trump, you cannot do this because you don't have the authority. Only Congress has that authority. And we're going to use that authority to give you the power to do this, because you're doing such a great job in negotiating with India and getting our tariffs down in this country and that country. And it gives you the power to do that. And he is the one thing he's actually got more experience at than probably any president in history is negotiating deals. So why not have, once we put him in this position of power, why not enable him as best we can to actually go forward? But I think that he has a personal vendetta against Trump, where he's trying to just be the voice of no and say, oh, I'm based, I'm the voice of no, rather than saying, well, look, it's got to be done through a certain process. And once we do the process, then I'll empower you, but I'm not letting you trample over the Constitution. That I would have said, based as hell, awesome, great job. That's not what he did. Instead, he made it about, I'm stopping Trump. And to me, that was another example of Massie saying, I'm the one who's, my voice is the one that matters. I'm the one who's, and he takes what should be a constitutional argument and seems to make it a Massie argument. See what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. But I think the point where we differ, like, right, our point of dissension is that like we don't believe that the tariffs are good for the people, right? So then it's not him saying like, no, I have to make this all about me. It's saying the same way where, you know, like earlier, if Trump says I'm not going to release the files, Massie says, no, you are going to release the files, right? And if Trump says I'm going to like undo all this unaffordability and all this inflation, and I'm going to like bring like the whole promise of Doge, right? And like I'm going to bring prices down. And then Trump says, hey, I'm going to enact this policy that's going to drive prices up. Then Massie says, no, you're not. Right. And so at least from our perspective, right, that's not him saying, I'm going to make this all about me. That's not him grandstanding. That's just him saying like, no, here's why I don't believe in this thing. Here's why I think that this drives prices up. Here's why I think this is bad for the US. And I'm not going to go along with it just because this coalition that formed around a very, very talented, like one of the best speakers and like just public motivators we've seen in forever. Like just because this guy is for this, if I don't think it is good for the country,
right.
I'm not going to support it.
And I can respect that, even though I think tariffs could be used in a beneficial way that's not going to that will long-term benefit America's finances. I can respect someone coming to a different conclusion. I recognize that, you know, economists will differ on this. Other people are going to differ with me on this, and that one. So I can, while I think that it's part of a consistent theme with Massie, I'll give you that one. I'll say, you know what, that he basically was like, look, I think that this is damaging to the American economy, and I don't want to do it for based on that. So I'll take that one off. So I don't think you're right.
Yeah,
right.
I think
that's
fine.
I think he's wrong I think he's wrong from that perspective. But if you want to try and defend Massie and say that that's what he genuinely believes, I guess it's possible, and I can't refute that. So
I think I have a good possibly. I think I have a good framework for how to think about how the Massie supporters think about him. So in the same way that like with Donald Trump, most people who support Trump are like, yeah, I don't agree with most of the things he says, or like, you know, or hey, I agree with some of the stuff. But when Trump ran, he was this symbol of like, I'm like we wanted the bull in the china shop, right? We wanted someone to go burn it down. We wanted someone to like in his first presidency, he exposed the media better than any president has ever done, right? Just by letting them talk.
He changed the world.
Right?
He changed the world.
He like that is one
inventing
of the best
term
things.
Fake news. Inventing the term fake news. He changed the world. Yeah.
That like one of the best things he's ever done is that like all of CNN's credibility is just gone, right?
Right.
And so then in his second term, like after he in the Biden years, when everyone saw like how much the establishment hated him, he was this symbol that we rallied around and we believed in. And it was like even the libertarians, right? There's a lot of policies that he's going to do. And I knew like, look, he's going to do stuff I don't support, but he is this just wrecking ball that is going to tear the system down. And so I'm okay with that, right? There's going to be some damage, but like he's going to expose all the corrupt people. He's bringing in Kash Patel, who is just going to revolutionize the FBI, right? Because Kash Patel is so honest, and he's going to just like gut the whole system. And then, you know, Pam Bondi is just going to prosecute everyone, and RFK Jr. is going to keep us healthy, right? And then just like one by one, people started falling, and Trump stopped being the symbol and felt a lot more like someone who had sold out, right? And there's like two famous lines that get cited a lot where like Trump he's introducing Miriam Adelson and says like, she gave me $250 million. She is in my office every other day asking for something, and you got to give it to her, right? And so like, that's how a lot of us feel, is that like, man, we voted for you, we rallied around you, and then you have like a donor and it feels like you're giving her everything she wants, and you're not giving us what we want, right? Or like,
well, this brings us to
the Iran war, right?
Because I think that's where I think if you want to finish up, I didn't want to cut you
Yeah.
off.
Sorry, I want to finish the parallel
okay.
because otherwise it'll be stuck in my head. So I think for a lot of us, Massie is also this symbol, right? We're like, I don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs of the constitutional law or interpretation, right? But like, he is a guy who like he has been so overwhelmingly supported in his district for so long, and like he believes in like, to be fair, I disagree with him on open borders, right? Like that's a place where we split. But in general, like most of the things he believes in, I support. And it's all the reasons that I was willing to be supportive of Trump in the second term, like all those same reasons. But then when it feels like all of this money bought off Trump and the same person donates $20 million against Massie, then Massie becomes this symbol of like, no, if you ever want to get someone in Congress who will actually expose the Epstein list, will actually say no to spending, will actually like transform things and be honest, like this is our last guy, right? If this guy goes down, and he has said that there's a lot of people who agree with him, but they won't speak out because they're afraid that someone's going to put $20 million into their competitor's primary, right? And so he is this symbol for a lot of people of like the last hope of what Trump promised to be and then wasn't.
Right. Okay. So so this is now we need to start talking about Israel, because Israel is the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Israel relates to the Iran war. Israel relates to AIPAC. Israel relates to Mary Nadelson. Israel. So it's, there's everything. Everything keeps coming back to Israel ultimately, right? Now, let's talk about this. I'm with you. I don't like the idea of Israel or any country controlling America. I want us to be completely divested of any ties like that. I think that AIPAC is, I think from what I understand, they're top 10 lobbies, but I don't think they're like number one lobby in Washington. In other words, I think that I think they're up there. I don't think they're the number one lobby in America. I think pharma and tech and these other agencies are actually wielding a lot more influence than Israel is. But I can understand that first and foremost, the problem that you have is this, is that Israel, so as a libertarian, so it's not Israel that's funding AIPAC. What you have basically is these are people who are pro-Israel, who are Americans, who are supporting AIPAC. So first and foremost, I'm curious as a libertarian, like the AIPAC Act that he put out there that I was trashing as being a publicity stunt, that if he really wanted it to happen, he wouldn't have called it the AIPAC Act. Do you think that would be, assuming he didn't call it the AIPAC Act, do you think that silencing lobbies is something that's consistent with your libertarian values, or is it something that's wholly inconsistent with your libertarian values?
I would like everyone to have the freedom to speak as much as they want, whether that's through political speech, online speech, talking to your neighbor, calling in on a random YouTube show where you get a chat with someone. Like I want to support all those. As like libertarians, we want government to do as little as possible. But the one thing we want them to do is like, if I harm my neighbor, that's where they step in, right? And so we do. I don't know. People quibble over the details. But the place where we do want government to step in is like if I hurt you, but also like if I lie to you, right? And so there is the justification I would see for regulating AIPAC or whatever would only be in the sense of like if they are doing anything that is dishonest, right, then they have to declare it, right? So if I understand the complaint correctly, money is coming from Israel to American citizens. They will then fly them out to do like tours of Israel, or they will fly politicians out to do tours of Israel. And there's all these compilations. Of,
I've never heard this claim at all.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. There are compilations of like every major senator, Republican and Democrat, like going on the tour of Israel, but it's called a cultural tour, right? And so then once they're over there, because it's classified as a cultural tour, they don't have to declare the meetings that happen, right? And so, as far as I understand, that's the big complaint, right? Is like there's a lot of money being poured in. These meetings are undeclared, and then either the politicians or these lobbyists who are U.S. citizens, and so they if a U.S. citizen wants to say, "Hey, we should give $1 billion a year to Ukraine," they're allowed to say that. But if someone from Ukraine like flew them out there, had a non-disclosed meeting with them, and then they come back,
that's bribing them.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you can. I would say yes, you are still allowed to make that argument. I don't want to silence anyone, but I do think if you don't declare it, it's the same as like selling false goods, right? If you sell something and you say it's one thing and it's not,
I think
that is. Yeah.
Let's talk about Miriam Adelson individually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like the idea of wealthy people. I don't care if it's Miriam Adelson, Elon Musk, Ben Gates, Bill Gates, anyone. I don't like the idea that they basically are able to buy Washington.
Yeah.
To me, I think it's gross. And I see little distinction when you're talking about it being AIPAC or CARE or or any of these or big tech or pharma. I don't like the idea of any of them buying their influence. If you're telling me that you find that you basically can get on board with the idea of abolishing these lobbyists, I'm totally there.
Wait,
I'm totally there.
Wait, I want the lobbyists to be able to speak as much as they want.
Speak, but not buy your way in there.
I
don't want it to. I don't want it to be that. Yeah. See, I don't like the idea that they're. I personally don't like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is this:
not allowing it that I have a problem with.
Because you're a libertarian.
Because I don't trust government to make the call of who is or isn't allowed to spend money.
Well, how do you stop it from rising to bribery?
My solution is you lower. You don't attack the. If you're looking at supply and demand, right? Reduce the power of government to the point that people aren't buying them off, right? So if government isn't going to endless 20-year wars with people, if government isn't in bed with a bunch of defense contractors,
if we have 10,000 rather than 300, 400 congressmen,
yeah.
I'm totally on board with that, but we're never going to get that because these congressmen will never give up their power.
Yeah, but so that is my that is the solution.
But that's the utopian solution, which is not an actual solution. And that's the problem with a lot of libertarian, with seemingly a lot of libertarian ideas, is that you're sort of living in an ideal utopia that you wish you can draw up, but that's not the country, that's not the reality that we're working in here. To me, that's little different than Ellen Page wishing to be a boy.
Yeah, I mean, at one point we did have a very limited government. And then back then we had 13 million, not 13 million people living here, not 50 million illegals and 300 American citizens. Yeah. So, right, a lot of things went wrong after Wicker v. Filburn, right? Like,
yes,
they threatened to pack the courts.
Yes,
and and so like that is a place I know you and I agree completely. But the I think.
But I do want to talk to you more about this whole Israel thing, because instead of talking about solutions that we're never going to have happen, right?
This is good. Yeah,
I want to get back and talking about situations as they are right now, because what it comes across to me is that Massie and a lot of people, and not even as much Massie, but a lot of his supporters, seem to assume that every problem that we have in this country, every decision that Trump makes that they dislike, is Israel's behind it. This is invariably. It always comes back to they got him too. As soon as anyone says anything against Massie, it's Israel paid them off, or the AIPAC got them, or whatever. There's this shutdown of conversation, and the line has no longer been blurred between Israel and Jews. Within this constituency, there is a significant percentage who are unabashedly foregoing the use of the word Israel and just saying it's American Jews who are the problem. I cannot tell you how many, in the last 24 hours, I had like 4 different people basically telling me that they can't wait until my people are kicked out of this country. Now, this is something that never happened. It's something that never happened to me as recently as a year ago. And now it happens multiple times a week. Now, I personally don't feel threatened by that, but the reality is that this is something that has been ratcheting up more and more. It's something that people are unafraid to actually say out loud. They're still keyboard warriors and saying it behind a screen, but they're motivated by the likes of people running for Congress like Dan Bilzerian, who basically will say it's essentially that. And this guy getting, I don't know, 17% of a popular vote. And you don't see, and look, when Trump was running in his first term and then running for office against Biden, there was all these different people who were continually yelling at him that he needs to condemn the KKK, condemn the KKK. This guy condemned the KKK 4 times a week, and then they would trot him out there and say, "Why can't you finally condemn the KKK?" And you're just like, the reason they're asking the question is just to pretend that he hasn't done that 1,000 times already. As if, like, he's reluctantly doing it. Now we're going to twist your arm into it. So even though you would have Jake Tapper saying, well, we're finally going to get you to do this. And he had basically gotten to do it like 6 months earlier. But it's like, oh, well, I guess that's a news break over here. Even though you heard him say it. You got him to say it 6 months ago. But now we're going to pretend it never happened before. So I don't like this whole, I don't like the whole thing as far as, saying, I'm calling on you to condemn. I'm calling you to condemn. I'll tell you this. Nick Fuentes had a debate with Robert Barnes when I was very early in my YouTube career. Okay.
I never saw that one.
Yeah, and I actually covered it. I actually covered like the debate, and I did like a little breakdown of it. We can watch the video of it. And then and Rob Barnes came on my channel, and you know what he said to me at that time? He said to me at that time, the reason that he wanted to debate Nick Fuentes is because he wanted MAGA to see that this is the opposite of America First. This is the exact antithesis of what America First is about. This is not at all what, they don't care about American interests. They're just motivated by a deep-seating hatred of Jews, and that's what they're about. That's where Robert Barnes was 4 years ago. And now, forget about Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is like the good one in the crew amongst some of these people there, and there's zero distancing. There's zero statements as far as like, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you saying it's American Jews? Like, how do you have the audacity to make that claim? And instead of people like that being shunned, like people are just like shrugging. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm certainly not talking about you. I'm not talking about Robert Barnes. I'm not talking about Viva Frei. I'm not talking about any of these people. But what I'm saying is there seems to be a certain comfort level where I certainly don't think any of them harbor any ill will towards Jews at all. But there's just this unusual level of comfort around people, like just, sitting around a table and joking around, feeling completely comfortable with people who are very openly just really dislike Jews. And it's like, it's a weird thing to me. I'm just like, really? Like Robert Barnes wanted to expose how terrible Nick Fuentes was. And right now, Nick Fuentes seems like, my best friend compared to like some of these people who folks are palling around with. So I'm just like, I don't know what the hell is happening here. Like, and that it doesn't even matter as far as like, I don't need you to condemn them. I'm not looking for you to go out there and say they suck. I hate them. It would be good if you don't need to call out this person or that person, but it would be nice if you came out and said, hey, anyone who's saying stuff like that without mentioning names, you're a freaking lunatic. And that's not what America First is about. Clarify your position as an individual and I'm not talking to you, John, because I know where your position is. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying that some of these people, like Tom Massie, could come out and say, yeah, by the way, all these folks who are coming out there saying it's about American Jews, they're lunatics, and I don't have anything to do with them. You don't have to say this person, you don't have to say that organization, but it's just a matter of like clarify what your position is on it. And they seem to be very comfortable, we'll just call it with the Jews adjacent. There's the Jews adjacent, and there's zero distance, zero effort to distance at all, almost as if they don't want to alienate them because they need to grab up anyone they possibly can. And it's so and look, 3 weeks ago, I was hearing how J.D. Vance is the great white hope for the Massie heads. That it's like, they were like, oh, J.D. Vance, it's like, Trump is gone, Rubio is terrible, he's all AIPAC and Israel first, but J.D. Vance, who's sitting quietly about the whole Iran war, that he's going to be our candidate and he's going to be the savior and he's whatever. And then he came out and he basically, last week, in the last few days, and he basically was like, Massie's not for me. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, AIPAC got him. Oh, it's like the Jews got him too. Like, it's just like every time it's the Jews did it, Israel did it, every single problem in their lives, it just seems as if it's, the Jews' fault or Israel's fault, or let's say that Israel, when we're meeting the Jews, whatever it is. And it's just like, I have no patience. I used to basically say, I don't want to make a stink about this. I don't want to have a whole argument about this or whatever. And it's just like, I would sit there and I would just sort of grit my teeth. But I got to a point now where I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of people sitting there and allowing their position about some of these crazy statements being made to just basically go into question, that I'd sit there saying no, I don't think that this guy is an anti-Semite. I know him. I don't think he's at all an anti-Semite. But it shouldn't be me saying that. It should be them saying hey, these lunatics who are making these statements are a-holes and they're schmucks and they have nothing to do with what America First really is about. That's what they should. That's what, the adjacent people should be saying, and they don't. So I'm just like, you know what? To hell with them. I'm not going to sit here trying to impress them or I'm just like, if you can't be comfortable enough to basically say these a-holes suck, I'm not sitting here trying to sit here and dance around with you just to make you feel good about yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I think even for whatever reason, if someone turns I don't want my politicians being bought off into, I think that Jews are bad. We need to get rid of the
American
that person's
Jews.
just an idiot.
Right. And you have the conies to say it.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, I don't understand why it is that people who are talking regularly into microphone from the Massie side of the aisle. Can you tell me? Maybe I missed it. Are you familiar with anyone who associates with Massie, who's known as a strong Massie supporter, who has made that statement about anyone else who's basically been about the Jews? Have you heard anyone say that?
Yeah. Dave Smith has said it
Oh yeah. Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
The only one who I haven't heard that, and I credit him for that. The only one who I've heard say that, ironically, is Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, and they Dave Smith has I think he's interviewed Nick Fuentes twice.
I think he had him today.
Like
I think just today he had him on.
Yeah, I saw one. I have not seen it, but I saw that it was on. But when he did, he did the talk with him and a whole podcast afterwards each time, and talk about hey, here's where I think this guy is crazy, but also this guy's getting a lot of attention. You have to we have to ask why is there so much unrest in the youth, right? And so I think he did a good job of separating it.
Right.
Dave Smith and his co-hosts are both Jewish.
I don't know. I keep hearing conflicting reports about whether David Smith is Jewish or not. Plenty of people who are Jewish who are Jewish hate Jews. Yeah, so that to me that doesn't mean anything. When someone tells me this guy's Jewish, it doesn't mean anything to me, because a lot of people who are Jews hate themselves. Hate that part of themselves.
His focused anger right now is more directed towards Israel, right?
And like I said, it's possible for someone to be like that.
Yeah. If you went back 2 years, though, he would be saying all the same things about Ukraine and Zelensky buying off all our politicians, right? And so I don't think he's anti-Ukrainian. I think he hates other politicians or other countries getting us involved in wars,
right,
or helping to sell this idea of oh, we're going to go spread democracy in the region, and actually what we're going to do is leave a war-torn country 20 years later. And nobody's better off except for defense contractors.
Right. Well, let's talk about Iran a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that more, okay? Because I'll tell you this much. I want us out of Iran. Okay. I don't want to be in Iran any longer. And a part of me wishes that he would have just obliterated a little bit more. He would have decimated a little bit more effectively and gotten out. It's drop your damage and get the hell out. already. He wants to leave. If he wants to leave Israel behind there to do whatever Israel wants to do, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want American troops there. I don't want our weapons there. I don't want any of. I just don't want us there. I just want us, just get out already. Okay, because it's mid-May, and I basically said, I'll give you 6 weeks. We're now like 10 weeks in, and I'm like, it's time. It's time to get the hell out. So he's losing my patience with that. At the same time, I think that Massie and libertarians, to ignore the significance of removing Khomeini and how that alone was such a critical win, and that to understand that when you remove Khomeini, you kind of would rather try to help a faction that you think is going to be a more westernized type of faction to actually get in control and to extend some efforts in that direction. To me, it was just ridiculously short-sighted by Massie and a lot of his supporters, where you're just basically, screaming. And I felt as if because of Epstein, it's like there was this growing, whatever Trump does now is evil and wrong, and he's being led by the nose by Israel. And let's assume that Bibi talked him into it, which I think is like, I don't know how anyone knows that. If Bibi talked Trump into something, he's the first person who ever figured out how to talk Trump into doing something in international stage that he didn't want to do, because he seems to do everything when it comes to international stuff, he seems to do precisely what he wants to do and no more. But somehow Bibi has this Svengali hold over him. And I'm like, I don't know why you think that. I understand why you would think that Bibi would want Iran gone. He definitely wanted, he wanted the IRGC out and Khomeini gone. But that doesn't mean that he talked Trump into it. And this is something that Trump has always said, that he wants to get rid of Iran, like they can never have a nuclear weapon. And that I think Trump is very invested in his own legacy, that he wants to be known as the guy who ultimately brought peace to the Middle East. He feels as if this is something that he'll be known as a hero a century from now. If he manages, that it's like long after his days are over, that he will be talked about forever if he manages to just find a way to bring peace here. And he feels as if, like, if I can just get a Western nation to be running Iran, the Middle East crisis is over for potentially forever.
My speculation is that is exactly how someone would talk Donald Trump into doing a war in Iran.
By telling him it's your legacy.
By telling him this will be your legacy. It's going to go as smoothly as Venezuela did, right? It's just going to be one quick military strike. You'll be in and out in 24 hours, and you will cement your legacy as the president who finally brought peace to the Middle East, right? And like that is how, if I wanted to talk Trump into something, that is how I would sell it. And the who knows what actually happened in the room, but that is the reports, right? Is that like Netanyahu came in, said this is going to be easy. Some of his staff said, hey, you probably shouldn't listen to that guy. He also said Iraq was going to be easy. And Trump was like, no, I think we can do it, right?
Like I said, I don't know it, but it's become the popular thing to just basically assume that Bibi keeps twisting his arm into doing this, and I'm just like, I don't know, maybe he's twisting Bibi's arm into it.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening here.
I think the other thing that gives that argument a lot of credibility, right, is like when they first announced that they were going to do strikes, right? The justification that was given was basically, we knew that Israel was going to attack. Iran assumes that we are in joint operations with them, and so if Israel attacks, then they're going to do a retaliatory strike against our bases. So we have to do a preemptive strike in self-defense, which to me is like, if I had a friend at a bar who was like, hey, I'm going to go pick a fight with this guy, so you need to come have my back, I would be like, no, if you go pick a fight with that guy, you're on your own. Like, you're a dumbass. Don't go pick a fight with the guy who's bigger than you, right? Like,
right. Well,
also,
but here's the thing. I mean, with respect to when Rubio was saying that, we knew that they were going to basically be striking our bases as soon as they were going to attack. I don't know that if we're not involved in a joint operation, that Trump was in a position to basically tell Israel that you can't strike Iran.
But
so at a certain point, and we've seen this happen historically, at a certain point, that Israel, correctly or incorrectly, has assumed that it was necessary for them to bomb a particular neighbor in the Middle East because of potential threat. And over the last 20 years, most often, if anything, it's been Iran, because Iran has been sponsoring terror throughout the region. So the idea that they were never going to attack seems kind of ridiculous. That at some point they're going to attack. Even if you keep a leash on them for 3 months, 6 months, what happens a year from now? So a year from now, Iran is that much further along in its development of its missile arsenals and its nuclear and fixing back up their nuclear nuclear capabilities. So you'd rather hit them when they're weak than when they're strong. So like I said, I don't look at it as, I don't think the bar fight analogy is really that apt, because I think that it's not like he's saying, go get my back. It's basically saying, like, okay, if let's assume that Israel is somewhat deranged, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say it's like Paul Murdoch. You follow the Murdoch story?
Yeah.
Okay, so Paul Murdoch, he's a hothead, right? So basically, and he's routinely getting into fights with this person or that person before the whole boating incident.
Yeah.
So that eventually the hothead is going to be popping off at this guy who's always mouthing at him.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy who's always mouthing at him says, hey, if Paul ever pops off on me, I'm gonna wreck your car. So I mean, so it's like, it's not a matter of like, oh, it's like, what I have no capacity to stop Paul from doing that, and now this guy's basically saying he's gonna wreck my Porsche. What am I supposed to do unless I just take him out from being able to wreck my Porsche? It's not a matter of like that Paul is saying, well, you better do this because it's going to happen. It's a matter of, this is just recognizing this is what invariably happens.
I would argue, I think Iran did not want to go to war with us, right? If we, so in your analogy,
that's
I think
true.
it would be
They didn't
more
want,
like,
I don't think they want to go to war with us. No,
I think it would be more like the hothead saying, if you drive Paul here, I'm going to wreck your car. In which case, we could have just said, I'm not driving him there. So Paul, if you go fight this guy, like, that's on you, right?
I think that's the part where I think you're mistaken, because Israel felt free to attack Iran all the time, irrespective of America staying in the Western Hemisphere. That they felt free to attack them, and the idea was that they were going to basically be punishing American bases no matter what. Even if America wasn't escorting Israel into Iranian airspace.
If we called Iran and said, hey, Israel just told us they're going to attack. I know we've done stuff with them before. I want you to know this has nothing to do with us. So
Israel's not going to tell you. Israel's not going to tell you when they're attacking. They don't tell anyone.
Well, no, that was the whole thing. The justification that was given by Rubio and Hegseth and Trump was that we knew Israel was going to go. They told us they were going to go. And so we preemptively went, because otherwise Iran would do retaliatory strikes against our bases in the region.
So I don't know. Right? So when I listened to that thing from Rubio, I didn't know. I didn't take it as him saying, Israel saying we're going to be going sometime in the next 3 days, rather than Israel saying, look, there's going to be some time in the next 6 months, which we're going to go.
Yeah, so in other words, I don't know that they gave a timeline, but either way, we could have just said, hey, Iran, we have nothing to do with this. So don't touch our bases. If Israel attacks you, that's not us, and Israel would have had to decide if they want to attack on their own. And then the other place where I think you and I differ a lot, as far as Iran, is my understanding is that the previous Ayatollah, or the previous Ayatollah, whatever number we're on now,
candidate. Why doesn't the hero kill himself and tell us all your real address?
Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry. That's all right. I thought I was playing something on accident. That he had come out multiple times and said, religiously, he believed that nuclear weapons were wrong, right? That he had this whole thing about he was never going to do it. And then in Trump, I believe it's in the State of the Union, Trump says, I've never heard those magic words that we're never going to make a nuclear weapon. And the Iranian ambassador goes on and says, I don't know how I can make this more clear. Iran is never going to develop a nuclear weapon. We have enriched up to 60% only because the United States left the what's the agreement? The agreement we had that where like we would send investigators in to monitor like exactly how much they're enriching, and like it's tracked from the mine all the way to the facilities. They have to send off the gases to a foreign country that then it's like refined down into the metal and sent back. So like they don't have a way to actually like make that jump on their own to go from the 60% to the 90% that you would need. Right. And like, so there were all these things in place that said they were never going to do it. They kept themselves at like the 3% until Trump tore up the deal. And then they went up to 60 in order to like give themselves a bargaining chip to go back down to 3, which is what they had said.
First of all, I don't think that there's any way to actually that we know that that's what they were at. They're at the 3% there. And second, from a financial perspective, giving them billion, the amount of money that we were spending didn't seem to be making much sense. Like we're on a lease that we forever going to have to pay them to not build nuclear weapons. And this is one of the things I think Dave Smith in particular and a lot of libertarians seem to get very lost on, which is that they sort of, I think there's a developed cynicism towards American government where there's a and it's a well-earned cynicism because amount of times our own government has lied to us, where you basically assume that our government is always lying to us and all the other governments are telling us the truth.
Oh no. I think Dave Smith, me, most of the libertarians assume that all of the governments are lying, and you try and parse out like who's lying more in one particular situation, or you try and find corroborating evidence wherever you can. But yeah, I assume all the governments are lying.
I don't think Dave Smith ever gives nearly enough appreciation for the differences in culture and mindset between a Middle Eastern fundamentalist mindset and a Western mindset. I don't think he has any perception at all about how dramatically different that is and how that changes. That makes them a different type of foe than China, Russia, anyone, Israel, anyone. It makes them a completely different type of foe, because basically if you're dealing with someone who has nothing to lose, that's a very different set of dice you're playing with than someone who's like, okay, I need to find a way to survive here. My objective here is my own personal wealth, fame, success, affluence, power, the things that dictate the foibles, and the appetites of a Western mindset are totally irrelevant when you're dealing with the IRGC. You're shrugging your head at me, but I'm telling you that for some of them, you're right that they can be bought off that way. But for someone who's willing to blow themselves up, which they seem to have no shortage of finding people who are willing to blow themselves up. This is not someone who's looking for wealth. This is someone who is driven by a completely different mindset than you and I can actually step our feet into and actually
I don't know that that's true.
Okay,
so
go on.
So in the same way, like if you read, and there's not in any way to say that he was right for what he did, but if you read the Bin Laden's declaration of war, right? Like all of his complaints are like, you come over here, you are bombing our cities, you're bombing our children, you're bombing this, right? And like, if you think back to like, they bombed us one time and all of America was basically like, go blow up anyone with a turban, right? And like, I got caught up in that, right? Because I was like, I don't know, I was 14, 15 at the time. But it was like, hey, they attacked us. My president said like they're guilty for this. So yeah, I don't know the difference between
we were all gung ho in 2001.
Yeah. And so like I think we can step into that mindset, right? Where like if someone is blowing up our city, we have this mindset of like, we're gonna go get them. And then if you look at like the number of people who signed up for our military to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go risk my life to to take them out, right? Because they hurt my country, right? And then like we happen to have the most powerful military in the world that you can sign up for. But if you didn't have that, I think you would have had like radical crazy people, like rednecks just running over there with a rifle being like, this is a suicide mission, but I'm going to take out as many people with a turban as I can. Right. So I think you can empathize with that.
No,
that
no.
mindset.
And here's the thing. What you're missing in this is you're still approaching it with a Western mindset. You're saying that they're driven by the same thing that we are because that's what Bin Laden put in his writings there. But I think that you're missing a lot of the fact that his writings are that we poison their minds, the minds of their children. Our culture, our existence is poisoning their minds.
I think most of what he complained about is that we're bombing their city.
That's the part Dave Smith is going to focus on. But just the very existence of Western culture is something that is anathema. And I don't know, how religious are you?
Fairly, very, very much so.
Okay. All right, good. So then perhaps I can you'll be able to relate to I'll come at you from a very religious Jewish perspective, okay? Because I can relate to that far better than any other culture, obviously. So from a very religious Jewish perspective, okay, I look at the Western world as something I need to continually monitor and shelter my children from 24/7, because it is so poisonous, it is so insidious, and is so self-destructive that I do not want the self-destructive attitudes to pervade into my 12-year-old daughter's mind. So I don't want her going anywhere near the internet. I don't want her interacting with anyone who's been infected with this type of mindset. I want to keep her cloistered and sheltered away. Now, when you have this mindset, okay, and it's now the vast distinction between Jewish perspective and Muslim perspective is that Jewish perspective is much more of a live and let live perspective. I know that a lot of the anti-Israel people think that it's all, and Cenk Uygur will sit there with his cockamamie imperialism type of thing, but that's not Jewish perspective. Jewish perspective is very much, we're supposed to take care of our own, and just our own. We're not supposed to be trying to spread out to other people, and we should continue to blossom and hopefully be fruitful and multiply, but just that's our own offspring who are the ones who are supposed to carry on the tradition of being servants of God, and not your kids, not anyone else's kids. And the fact that you're not doing it has no bearing on me. But I do need to keep my children cloistered away from that. And this is, and the distinction between a fundamentalist Muslim is that that the fact that you are there doing that is an evil, that there is an objective to ultimately have Islam conquer the world. That is, from a fundamentalist perspective, you're sitting here saying, it's an eye for an eye. You came here, so we now need to punish you back. That is a Western mindset. You're just like the same way if a redneck, would be all upset. They'd want to go marching in there saying, I'm defending my land, that they're defending their land. This is not a nationalism type of thing. This is not about countries. This is not about like, oh, Saudi Arabia or Iran is holy land. It's a matter of, this is what God wants for us to do. This is what is holy. This is what makes us a good person. The same way you think that living by the golden rule makes you a good person, they think that compelling people to follow Allah makes them a good person. This is a whole different philosophy from that's why people like that having a nuclear weapon is not something that like, oh wow, that's an uncomfortable position. It's suicide. And that's why there's such a terrible fear of them getting anywhere near that. But if they have a Western mindset, if they're coming out of a Western mindset, in that case, it becomes much less of a terrible fear, other than the fact that they might be overrun by fundamentalists. But the idea of someone who has that type of mindset, actually going out there and having capacity to blow themselves up and feel like they're going straight to heaven for blowing themselves up together with you, that is not someone that you can have good faith negotiations the way you could with Russians, Chinese, anyone else.
So their Ayatollah was telling us for 20 years that it's against his religion, right, to have any kind of nuclear weapon, right? And so, but on the flip side, you do have I think it goes back to 96, 97, There are just compilations of Netanyahu talking to our Congress saying Iran is getting a nuclear weapon in 2 weeks, going back, you know, to 96, right? And so it's like,
it's just like
okay,
it's like all the time you feel, and that's what you feel, and that's the cynicism
right
from our
and
government
so
lying to us.
It's so well, it's like, okay,
And like I said, a well-earned cynicism, because we have been lied to a lot.
So I am assuming that everyone, like all the governments, have incentive to lie. You know, they probably sprinkle truth in every once in a while when it's convenient or whatever, or
when
make
it
the
helps sell the lie, or will help the lie sound more compelling.
Yeah, helps it sell better.
Yeah.
But I think if one guy has been telling me this country is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon for the last 20 years, and one guy has been saying, no, I believe it's against my religion to have a nuclear weapon, I think killing that guy off and like killing him and his wife and his children, or like and his daughters, and like leaving his son in charge now, and the son is like very, very pissed off at us, and the son says, oh, maybe getting a nuclear weapon is a good idea. I think we're in a worse state because we did that, right? Like that's not a move in the positive direction for me. That's a move in the negative direction.
Which hadith do you think justifies a position of our religion bans us from having a nuclear weapon?
I don't know. I don't know their religion.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
That's what I'm saying.
That, like,
there's nothing.
they...
There's nothing there. He can be, and what is there is that there's nothing wrong with lying to the infidel for furthering the cause. So
okay,
there's nothing. Anyone who's studied Islam will tell you there's nothing there which would justify a Muslim cleric from taking that position. Now there are a lot of moderate Muslims. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of moderate Muslims. I mean, but even if we look at the majority of the world being that way, and the point is, when you have a fundamentalist state entity, that's what I'm saying, is to just sit there saying, well, he says it's against my religion, so now we have nothing to worry about.
It's not just that. It's also that he allowed the investigators in for 20 years, right? Like he allowed them in and didn't refine up past the 3%, right? Like he had the action.
No, I think at a certain point they stopped allowing them in. I think at a certain point they stopped allowing them in.
Only after when Trump tore up the agreement, right? That's when he went up to 60%, but he was still allowing the investigators in, right? It wasn't until we struck their facilities that he said, okay, everybody out, right? So
I think you're saying it wasn't. No, before we even started paying them off, they stopped letting us in on a regular basis.
I don't believe that's true.
That's my recollection. I have a bunch of chats I need to catch up on. I feel
Okay.
like I left people out there. So you mind if I just run through this real quick?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
This was better than I expected. This was fantastic.
I enjoyed it, and I think this sort of dialogue is so necessary. You know, so you can understand why it is that, like, I'm just like the more I think about Massie and his crew, the less patience I have for them. You see what I'm saying? Where it's just like, yeah, at a certain point, you're just way too comfortable with being with people who are totally fine with seeing you get shipped off to camps.
Yeah.
So, Fanone was not that. We got this one. Politics side. Did you hear about this one I covered? This was you. He's a pine coach. Kimberly says, when the New York Times NOC comes out and endorses Massie, tells me everything I need to know. Massie is a runner. Does that bother you?
No. I think the New York Times will use any division within the Republican Party to. I think they hate Trump more than they like Massie. So I don't know. I don't trust them to say anything correctly. I don't know. Occasionally, I think they've still got a couple of good writers. Whereas, like, I don't know, the teachers union, I think, is a great guide for if you just vote the opposite of everything they say, you'll be 100% correct. New York Times is like, they're like 75-25.
You're being very generous, in my opinion. I can't remember the last time I agree with the New York Times on anything. Massie voted against the border wall because he was concerned with E-Verify. Trump campaigned on no long-term wars, and that is what he said. He was like, no long-term wars. Trump also said Iran can't have nukes. Now he aligned himself with the lefts. Yep, I agree, Kimberly. This accusing the glass for having water in it. JH says, Joe, John just said that he's a computer programmer. He's AI. He's not real. He looks like
you got me.
He looks like he works out. Computer programmers sit behind a desk in their mom basement, make him prove he's real. So can you prove you're really a computer programmer? Because we have questions. I'm gonna take his word for it. Joe, tell your friends to go watch Susan Kokinda to know exactly what Trump is doing. You want to check out Susan Kokinda? We're not doing it now, but
yeah, I'll check it out. I always want to hear the best arguments from people I disagree with.
Right. Okay. And that's what makes you cool. Hey guys, Venezuela did consider Guaido Maduro as an act of war, but then the new vice president who came in charge said, "Okay, we give up. War over. We'll cooperate. No more fentanyl." Yeah. I'll say the quiet part. Vikings were real jerks. This is true. JH comes in here and says, "I think bribes to politicians should be legal, as long as they say how much the bribe is and who they're getting it from. If the people don't like the bribe I'm getting, they can impeach me, arrest me, or not vote me in." That's a novel take, JH. What do you think of that?
I think that is. I'm more on that side. Like, I'm more scared of government saying who can or can't donate than I am of any one politician being bribed. And so that is why I think like Thomas Massie winning, I think sends a message that like I don't care who writes a $20 million check. The people who believed in this America First movement are going to stick with the guy who stuck with America First movement, right? So that's yeah. So it's like, yeah, go ahead and bribe them. If we don't like your guy, we're gonna, I don't know.
Hands One Pack is pushing back on you, saying Congress critters go on cultural tours all over the world. Massie went to South Africa. It is not just Israel and the Jews.
The AIPAC argument is getting well outside my depth. I'll just concede the point.
Yeah. They had lots of other conflicts like the big, beautiful bill. And I'll tell you this much. The two criticisms I have of Trump, the two biggest criticisms, you've probably heard me say it before, is I hate who he chooses. I hate who he picks. For example, I can't stand Ed Galbraith. I don't like him. And, you know, I was patient with Pam Bondi, but she was never someone who I would pick. Frankly, I went to pick Rubio Ito. I wasn't crazy about him. He turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Yeah, and his Supreme Court nominations were terrible. So like, I don't like who he picks to surround himself with. And I also think he spends way too much money. I think he spends way too much money. But virtually everything else he does, I'm like, yeah, that's the right call. I don't. Well, and that's why the Epstein debacle was so surprising to me, because it was the first thing I remember him doing that was not spending or appointments, that I was just like, what the hell is this? What the hell are you doing? So, the IRS sent him a letter. This we covered. I called Biden. This we got. Okay, so I think I'm all caught up there.
On the New York Times thing, maybe a good parallel would be, I'm less concerned about New York Times praising Massie than I am the fact that like Lindsey Graham is currently praising Donald Trump, right? Like Lindsey Graham being a Donald Trump fan now, to me is like quintessential. Like yeah, Donald Trump is now doing
that's Rhino being Rhino.
All the warmonger stuff that they've wanted for forever.
If Trump never set foot in Iran, Lindsey Graham would still be licking him up and down. He would, because that's what Rhinos do. Rhinos kiss up to power. Rhinos kiss up to power. Yeah. So whether they're doing what they like or not, that's the classic politician of like, whoever is in power is the person I worship.
That's fair. Yeah, he might do just the opposite despicable thing and still be a despicable person.
Behind scenes, he might be saying, "I wish Trump would be going into Iran," but you know what I'm saying. But he would still be praising him anyway. I had a whole bunch of different. I
did want to ask.
Yeah.
Did I at least paint an understandable picture of why like the Massie camp is rallying behind this guy, right? Like why so many people outside Kentucky are like, this is our last hope. Like Like, even if you disagree, that like that's
No,
where we see it.
I feel as if so much of what they say, besides the anti-Jew rhetoric that comes from way too many people in that camp, I feel as if they make him as if he's some sort of white knight when I don't think he accomplishes anything. He just says
he got the Epstein Transparency Act through.
Was that him?
That was him.
And okay, great.
He and Marjorie Taylor Greene authored that bill, and so without Massie, we have no Epstein papers.
And now that you have them, do you feel complete?
No, I think it was like
that's my point.
I think one congressman can do very little, but
here's something he's never done. I mean, every time this is the thing. Every time there's a bill proposal, he says no. What has he ever put together a bill?
Yeah.
Has he ever? Yes.
Yeah.
When was that? Because I asked Grok about this. Grok couldn't find it. So you tell me. It's Grok can be retarded.
Put together the Epstein Transparency Act bill.
No. I meant a spending bill.
I don't think he's put one together, but he's proposed a bunch of amendments on the bills, right? So
because what I would love for him to do is I would love for him to stand up in March and say, hey, look, we're supposed to have individual spending bills. Let's get started on that. I'm willing
to
push
very hard for that.
He pushed for that in September.
No, he pushed for the change like way before September.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, when Matt Gaetz gets up there and starts threatening Speaker, what's his face, Mick, I don't know, Mick Smiley. What was that guy's name? The Speaker before Johnson.
Thune?
No, the House Speaker.
Oh, I forget.
Something MacArthur. Something with a Mick. It was some McConnell, not McConnell.
Mitch McConnell?
McCarthy. So it was McCarthy. So he basically it was Kevin McCarthy. That's when he joins in. But it's not like, but that's all, when we're coming to the end of the term and it's too late. It's like it's not enough time to do anything. So now you're just basically being the turd in the punch bowl. It's like, I'm all with you in principle. I'm like, hell yeah, we should be making a brand. It's embarrassing. In 25 years, we haven't had a new spending bill. It's like the CR. It's embarrassing. It's stupid. And there's so much waste that we can't even begin to attack. But it's like, why is he not leading the charge on this in February? Why is he not leading the charge on this when there is 6 months to actually attack it?
Yeah. So if I'll do my best to recall the details, but if I recall correctly, he pushed really hard for we need to not have just one giant spending bill, right? Mm-hmm. He was asked by the Republican Party to put that aside because the next spending bill was going to include all these fantastic Doge cuts that we were discovering, and so we are going to package it as one thing, but it's so that we can include all these amazing cuts to government spending that we're going to do. And we're going to have so much more transparency, and we're going to get rid of all these, USAID and fraudulent departments. So just go with it this time. And then it comes out and it's putting all that money back into the things that Doge cut. And so then he says if you go through his Twitter, every time he votes against a bill, he goes through and says, here are all these specific reasons I will not sign my name to this bill, right? And here are the things that they are funding in this thing that I am not signing my name to this thing. And he's very transparent about what pushes him over the edge for I won't do this. But he tried to just go along, and then the spending bill that they put forward, he was like, I can't do this. There's none of the stuff that we promised. This has no cuts. This increases the military budget by $1 billion, right? No, you asked me to give you a chance. I gave you a chance. And if this is the spending bill you're giving me, no, tear this apart. So I don't know. So I'm not mad at him for that. I see as a great.
I understand. I understand that you're proud of him for standing up for his principle. I'm simply saying, I wish that principle would show up 6 months before when there's time to actually make a new bill.
It
don't
did,
feel like
and
it does.
He tried to go along with the party, right? He tried to work with people, And then the bill that they put forward was garbage.
Well, I agree with you that there was way too much spending in the big beautiful bill. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
There was, and the failure to incorporate the Doge cuts was unspeakably inexcusable.
Yeah, and the other stuff, like, you don't have to agree, but I do think it's good to I don't know, just make a case that, like, we're not, none of the people supporting Massie are like hating on Trump. Like, most of us got behind him. It's that, like, there was this.
There seems to be a lot of hate towards Trump.
There is
a lot of hate towards Trump, and there also doesn't seem to be much of a plan. Meaning, I don't know what you guys think is going to happen in 2028. I can't even imagine. Like, who are you voting for in 2028?
I mean, I'm a libertarian who lives in California. My vote doesn't matter.
Who you hope? Who is? I mean, assuming Massie is not gonna get in anywhere. Who are you hoping is going to be in the White House?
I don't know who either party has on the bench right now. Like, both parties have like a sub 30% approval, right? So I don't know. Maybe third party finally gets in there and does something. Yeah, there's no one. Well, there are like maybe 2 people on the Republican bench that would have my support. There's also, I'm sure, lots of people in the Republican Party that I've never heard of that, you know, could start making a name for themselves. But at this point, yeah, like, everyone that Trump brought in that I had so much hope for, right? Like, has been a disappointment, right? Like,
I feel as if there's so little appreciation for the accomplishments that we've gotten from Trump. Have I gotten everything I wanted out of Trump? No, but I feel as if, like, with most politicians, if I get 2 things from them that I like, I'm like shocked, and with him I've gotten like 12.
Yeah,
and I'm just I
yeah.
feel as if you know, to me, libertarians or the woke right or whatever you want to call, you know, like the anti-Trumpers from, you know, who the 2024 Trump voters who became anti-Trumpers, and I don't know if you qualify yourself as that or not, but I feel as if there is no president that they're ever going to be able to support, because eventually they're going to turn on that person for doing something that they don't like.
I think all of the reasons we got behind Trump, right? We, like, probably the 4 big things is we wanted corruption cleaned up, and that's like epitomized by the Epstein documents, right? But then also, like, if he fumbled the Epstein documents but then followed it up with a whole bunch of prosecutions for the people we know are corrupt, right? If he didn't let Fauci,
and that's the thing is they've gotten more indictments than anyone, but they haven't been the big names. And that's where Bondi, I think Bondi was a tremendous failure.
All of them. Right. And yeah, like, sure, we can blame it on Bondi, but it is like, he made this promise that he was going to clean it up. And then Pam Bondi has dropped the ball on every single one. And I mean, like, I don't know,
Pam
Bondi, but like,
and that's why I said he sucks at appointing people.
Get it.
I agree with you on that. And I'm hopeful that maybe Todd Blanche is showing signs that he's going to be a little bit braver. I mean, he's going after the SPLC and, you know, and going after Comey. So perhaps we'll see, even though he's not going after Comey, I really want to see them go after Brennan, Clapper, and Obama. But, yeah, so I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Todd Blanche is the tonic that you and I are both seeking on that.
I wanted corruption cleaned up. I wanted inflation brought down. I wanted no new wars, like just one president who doesn't start a war in the Middle East. And
well, I don't know. I mean, look, if we pull, let me ask you this: if we pull out in 2 weeks and we're not in there anymore, you're going to call that a new war? The whole point to war is I don't want to see, you know, I don't want to see a lengthy engagement and, you know, 1,000 dead soldiers and you know, and that's why, like, I sort of feel as if, like, they're so quick. That's the other thing is like there's such a desperation, not from you, but from so many of people, the voices that you seem to be heralding, of screaming, MAGA's dead. Yes, MAGA's dead. it's MAGA is so dead. It's deader than Deadsville. It's dead. It's so dead. It's so dead. I'm just like, what the hell are you hoping for? Like, what are you hoping for?
I think where that's coming from is the so like you who's the reporter who had the poll about like 100% of MAGA supports Donald Trump right now,
Harry
right?
Enton had that.
So I think that what you're hearing is a response to that kind of energy that comes in and says like, yay, Trump bombed Iran. Everyone supports this. We're doing so great. We love, like, everyone is supporting this, right? And like the people who are against it are trying to say, no. We voted for a president who promised us not to get entangled in wars in the Middle East. No, we are against your coalition now. Like, you came to us, you promised us a thing. You said, hey, libertarians, I'm coming to you because I need this extra 2%. Which, whatever, there's like 12 of us in the country. He didn't need us probably. But like, he came to the Libertarian National Convention and like reached out to us. And then when he does the opposite, and everyone is celebrating like, hey, there's 100% support. We're going to try to make our voice known that like, no. Like, Donald Trump, like, you have lost our support. We are not behind you on this. We are not going to support like any, like, if you primary Thomas Massie, no, we are going to keep him in office, right? If you try and get these other things or like other people in positions of power, like, we are going to fight it. Like, we are not supporting. So I think that's where that energy is coming from, right? Is like a counter to that sort of celebration that came across as like, hey, we feel like we're winning, we're killing it. Everyone's, everyone's doing such a great job.
National Iranian American Council, top 50 House members, Democrat, all Democrats, and Massie.
Yeah.
A+ from them. A+. No one else is even like, there's no Republicans in an A+. God.
Yeah.
I mean, what I wanted.
But like, I mean, I don't know, they probably also would have, like Ron Paul, if he was still in office, would have been strongly against the war in Ukraine as much as he was against any of our terror wars in the Middle East. And yeah, the country that we are attacking is going to say that anyone who's opposing that war is great, right? Like, that's not, I don't know.
Are you a fan of Red Eagle Politics?
No.
Do you know who he is?
Nope.
So this is Red Eagle Politics. His channel is like, I don't know, probably 250,000 people or so. He's very into polls and following like that. Like, he's someone who's like OCD practically, and his knowledge of like stuff like, counties in Oklahoma and how they tend to vote, and counties and this. I'm talking about like this particular this county in Pennsylvania that and I'm not talking about the ones we all heard of. I'm talking like Bucks County. I'm saying like he'll just be like bringing up how this one tends to lean slightly Democrat. This one is like, will be like 3 or 4 points Republican, but there's not enough voters there. And he's going county by county. I'm like, I don't know how the hell this guy has all this information. So I've been following him since long before I had my own channel. So he basically put out here, Massie, when was this? This was yesterday, 2 days ago. Massie was only getting 75% in the 2022-2024 primaries with a Trump endorsement. Now that Trump is back to well-funded challenger, new scandals come to light. Massie recent voting record, I failed to see him cracking 50%. So that's turnout being higher doesn't necessarily help when it's a closed GOP primary in Kentucky. Trump's approval rating among the electorate will be somewhat in the mid to high 80s at a minimum, with close to 60% strongly approving. Not sure how Massie overcomes that. So yeah, there's a lot of people who are basically saying that the support you see for Massie online is going to be difficult for that to translate in Kentucky, where Trump is wildly popular. They're not as attuned to like following all the X saga of like people being mad at Trump. That's why I think Kalshi is having Ed Gowrine right now be like a 53%. Maybe I'll pull up Kalshi. Let's pull up Kalshi now.
Yeah, the only pollster I follow at all is Barris.
Richard Barris. He's very good.
I think he does great. But also that's it.
What's Richard Barris saying about this?
That basically it depends on what age group comes out to vote.
Because Massey's much more popular with the young.
Yeah. And I'm not qualified to make any statement on who is more likely to be correct or not.
Right. I
do
understand
tend
that,
to-
and I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for Richard Barris, and I like, and I know he's a Massey supporter, but I still like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and all the names that we've been talking about, anyone you've ever hear me talk about as a friend, I still consider them, every one of them, the same level of friendship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't gotten into an argument with any of them. I haven't, like, but yeah. So Kalshi here today, this is relatively new. They're putting him as of right now at 62%, 60%. So they're putting Galran at 60% and Massie at 41%. I don't know how that's possible, but that's much more than 100% to me. But yes, I guess that's their split. That's their hedge, I think.
Right.
They put him at 60 and no at 41. So that's where they make their money.
They
so
split.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no idea. I think the only thing I've heard people agree on is that it is going to be close, or at least that it is close enough.
I think there's a decent chance of a runoff.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance of runoff. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you have to get 50%, right, of the vote. So
I don't know how it works in their primary. But either way, like whether he wins or loses, I will still feel like I'm supporting the person who I feel like stood up for what the Trump coalition believed in a year ago.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, I'm a libertarian from California. My vote's never counted for anything. Nobody cares. So,
But I'll tell you, I think you're far better spoken than Dave Smith or any of these people. I really do. I think you should. You shouldn't put yourself down. And I really appreciate you coming out here, my friend.
Thank you very much. This was great. Yeah, you were very welcoming and less intimidating than.
Good.
I was less nervous than I thought I was going to be. So
I'm glad.
It was great.
I'm really glad you came in, brother. Have a good night.
As a computer programmer in his mom's basement,
you did great. No, you were very well spoken. You presented yourself really well, and I think that it was really beneficial having you. So thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Have a good night.
Good night, Joe.
So I'm just gonna catch up. It's right like 3 hours in here. Brian Ogden saying PayPal. I checked over at PayPal. I assume that you're Teresa. I got something from Teresa when you said this. I'm assuming that's you. So I don't get PayPal payments very often. What did you say here? I saw it earlier. Sorry, not Teresa. It's from Kim. It was from Kim. Got that wrong. It was from Kim. KPT's tracksuit cleaning fee. Thank you very much. I'm sure KPT appreciates you stepping up like that. Computer picked the worst time to update. I'll be there in 5. No worries. It's a pine cone. When's the New York Times and AOC comes out and endorses it? We got this one. We got this one. We got you. We got JH. I'll say the quiet part Vikings. We've got this one. Let's go Buck Wild and put MTG up for POTUS. That would be the wild card. JH coming on in here saying you're a freaking idiot if you believe when Ayatollah would tell you about domination of the world, their religion mandate lying to get their goal. Please don't be a child. Well, don't worry. I'm sure he's watching now. So I'm sorry I didn't pull this up earlier, but yeah, I'm sure he's watching now. So I think that it's their hopefulness which makes them think that way. Also, like I said, if you never get hit by a bus, you assume that there's no such thing, and you never hear stories of a bus hitting someone. You assume that you're impervious to buses. That's what ends up happening. I want to acknowledge the courage it takes to come up and speak your points here, and also for the respectful conversation over disagreements. Yeah, no, that he was amazing. That was great. I really appreciate him coming up here. And it takes a lot of cojones. I'll sometimes, like, when I go in someplace to speak somewhere new, like, I'll feel like a little knot. You know, it's not like, you just sort of like, when I went on Tim Pool, when I went to Destiny, you feel like a little knot when you go in there, and then you're just like, all right, I'm just going to weather past it. But I do this for a living. You know, I mean, I argue for a living. So, all the more so if you're a computer programmer. You did phenomenal. All right, my friends. Tomorrow, I plan on probably starting early because I'm going to be celebrating. I'm going to be having a lot of fun with the Massie thing, and I've got a lot of these different links on Massie. Tomorrow's primary day, and I think that this is the most expensive primary in American history. I don't think that I know. And I think it is a little bit of a referendum as to where the country is right now. So I do think it's very significant. So I'm probably going to start a little early tomorrow evening. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that. So you'll find that at goodlogic.locals.com. Probably somewhere like, I'm thinking like in the 9 range or so. So that's at goodlogic.locals.com. But don't say I didn't warn you. I'm telling you now. I'm probably going to be starting a little early. So that's what we got. I thank you all for joining me. I'm going to remind you that lab meat was never, ever meant for you. It's meant for they, them. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.